me and Ryan have been officially welcomed to the jungle that is Barstool Sports.
Our white whale, Sidney Crosby.
Shave his head! Shave his head! Shave his head!
Ryan Whitney, Paul Bissonette, R.A., Mike Grinelli, Spittin Chiclets!
What up, folks? It's the Whit Dog here. I'm joined by Biz Nasty. Welcome to episode 530 of the Spittin Chiclets podcast. Incredible, 530 episodes. Holy shit, Biz. How was the weekend? How are you doing? Have you heard from Shohei Ohtani or Ashanti?
Neither, but what a crazy game that was.
Dude, that was maybe the most ridiculous 90-second clip I've ever seen. I mean, me throwing in the RIP.
Yeah, that's a big L for you, right on the forehead. Now, the fact that they mentioned hours later after that clip came out that she would be singing the national anthem, I was scouring the internet, scouring my Twitter, seeing had they mentioned this at all, where maybe people thought that we did that on purpose, but there was no mention of Ashanti singing that anthem. So just an all-time coincidence happening. But I tell you what, if it wasn't for that fumble fuck of an inning for the Yankees, I think they would have came back and done it.
Just
how many errors?
I think 3. Judge had an error, Volpe had an error, and then was it
the all-time Cole, that Cole pitcher? What the fuck was he doing? Why didn't he just run out to first base? That's what you're supposed to do as the pitcher.
I think that it was just a brain fart. You kind of fall asleep at the wheel a little bit, and then boom, you think the first base is going to get there. But in sports, buddy, that extra split second, you're done. You're done. It's a game of inches. But I was enjoying the shit out of it. I mean, I was loving seeing that happen to the Yankees. If the Yankees hadn't won in 2009, they'd be the biggest joke in baseball the last 20 years. I mean, they got A-Rod carried them to that one title in 2009. So they got one since the collapse to the Red Sox. But I was actually thinking at the same time, while happy the Yankees were losing, I'm like, fuck, if they somehow come back and win in this Ashanti being dead or alive, like Aaliyah, it would have been an all-time kind of Chiclet story for us if we could have got the Yankees back into the series. And yes, you called Shohei Ohtani maybe the greatest athlete in the world, Ashanti, but I ended up being the biggest loser of the clip because I killed a woman. Yeah, I killed a woman. So I believe she's having Nellie's baby too. So I hadn't heard her name in years.
Whoa. Like Nelly the rapper?
Yeah,
they're together.
If you want to go and take a ride with me, 3, you know that song?
Wow, 2 heavy hitters going at it like that. I didn't know they were together.
I don't. Who knows if they're together? But I believe she's
going to end up Maya culping us again, like the whole fucking podcast? Are you making up rumors?
Maybe G can do a little digging as I read and talk about Pink Whitney. That is who presents. The main sponsorship for this podcast is Pink Whitney and New Amsterdam Vodka. Thanks to them, we're able to do this. Thanks to them, I have my name on a pink drink. And they have a very, very special possible fall weekend in Nashville for a lucky winner. So this fall, Pink Whitney, the go-to shot for a new generation of drinkers, is launching its first ever party bucket. Complete with the 2050 milliliter Pink Whitney bottle is fun, convenient bucket packaging. Also, the nips are now available in Ontario. Huge news that you can get the nips in Ontario. Not the nips you're thinking about from when you took us out in Toronto and we're wheeling and dealing. No, the Pink Whitney nips. The Pink Whitney 20-pack shot bucket combines the excitement of shots with the convenience of a multi-pack format, making it the perfect accessory for fall tailgates and game days, the birdie bucket as we call them. And Pink Whitney will also be selecting one grand prize winner and sending them and a few of their friends on a trip to Nashville, Tennessee for a weekend of Pink Whitney-filled fun. Pink Whitney will also be selecting 11 contest winners that will receive limited edition Pink Whitney Western merch. All they have to do is follow the prompts online. Sweepstakes and contests will be open now until December 15th. Go to pinkwhitney.com/Nashville to learn more. So that could be a great weekend. I'll be pretty close
to Nashville, actually, in the next week here. I'm going to a place called Gatlinburg.
Where is that? Tennessee?
It's actually closer to Knoxville, but it isn't in Tennessee. I'm going with Donnie Does. We're doing our first hiking experiment. We're going to be hanging out, doing some content. We're going to Dolly's World. I'm sure she loves Pink Whitney.
Dolly Parton.
Dolly Parton
Speaking
has
of
her
nips.
own version of Graceland. So we're going to be exploring that. We're going to be on the Scooby Snacks, and we're going to have ourselves a couple fun days.
So
that's
basically, you're just going to be like kind of like the way Nick and KB from Barstool would do the Rediscovering America with Donnie. It's going to be you and him just filming stuff in the middle of Tennessee.
Yeah, we were originally we planned on doing it in Vancouver. It didn't end up working out. We were going to do the Grouse Grind, and then go do another hike called the Chief, and he live streams his hikes. And I mean, he's just such an interesting guy, and I've obviously followed him since the beginning. He's got some of the best content, if not the best content, at Barstool. He's done some wacky one-offs where he went to that underground village in Vegas. Did you ever see that one? Where it's like all the homeless
it's like the
people.
penguin. It's like the real life penguin.
Yeah. Like he's went to Mount Everest. He just did base camp. He didn't do the whole thing. I think it takes like quite a while to get acclimated as you go up and then have to come back down to all the altitude. So he actually randomly ran into Kovalchuk's wife when he was at base camp of Everest. I think she ended up doing the whole thing. He was like messaging me like, hey, do you know this guy? Like, do you know Kovalchuk? I'm like, no, other than the tweet I sent out where I got my original Twitter canceled. That's the only connection I have to Kovalchuk. But I'm just
Ilya
fascinated.
met her at the top. He took a helicopter up there. I'm guessing you probably can't take a helicopter to the top of Mount Everest. So that's probably
I
another
would
dumb
assume
comment.
that you can't do that. No, you can't. No, you have to get a Charmin and you have to go the heel toe express. But he's just done so many fascinating things. I'm fascinated by him. He's done all these treks overseas. So I figured he'd be a fun guy to collab with, and who knows where it goes. But I think we're going to do the hike and then film a podcast at the top of the hike and then see where it goes. And then hopefully it just leads to more and more adventures, and eventually maybe even outside of North America. So how we landed on Gatlinburg, I don't know, but we had to stay in that pocket of the world because we're actually going to be heading on Saturday. So we're doing this on Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And then on Saturday, I'm heading to see you in Florida with our boy Keith Yando, who we were supposed to do this podcast with him, but considering we're going there to film a Sandbagger in Florida this next week here, we figured why not just do our podcast with Keith Yandel in person. And we're going to have a few special guests, and we're going to be recording, from my understanding, at his crib. So it'll be a fun little week. So we got a lot in store for our Chiclets listeners, including a little collaboration with Donnie Does.
And I'm wondering, is this going to be micro dosing, or is this like a macro dose type hike? Like, will you get mangled, or will you just get happy?
I think the plan is every mile that we trek, we do a Scooby snack. Now that might get a little too out of hand, and by the time we'd have to record a podcast, we might just be drooling on ourselves. So I think we're gonna we'll play it by ear. Let's just play it that way. We will be taking Ubers or have a driver, because that's what the plan is, to get a little bit of silly, excuse me, especially going to Dolly World. Like I have no idea what to expect. I would imagine it's just like a bunch of like oversized bras and photos of her huge jammers, along with a lot of her hit tunes and records on the wall. What else would Dolly Parton be famous for?
I think she's considered a real legend in the music industry. Now, this is like, we might as well be talking about like advanced geometry right now. Like, there's Dolly Parton. There's probably a couple Dolly Parton stans that are listening to this pod that are disgusted that you even mentioned. Like, what else could I see at her house besides a big bra?
I said hit records and then oversized bras, because I think that she is known for her music and her fantastic jugs. And I don't mind saying that about an elderly woman, because she runs a tight ship.
I'm telling you right now, like,
she might be the hottest gilf on the planet.
I am on Google Images. There cannot be a hotter 78-year-old woman in the world. 78 years old. And if you saw her at Stampede, you'd be just like, hey, baby, nice to meet you. I'm Biz Nasty. Like, you would be right up in that biz.
I would try to talk some game to Dolly Parton. I think she would shoo me away. I think she's probably fed up with the youngins like me. She wants a nice, mature man, probably someone a little closer to her age. But I think that anybody listening can respect the fact that she has a nice heavy set, and that she is well known for maybe not just as much as her music for that, but pretty fucking close.
Okay. Also coming in on the notes app here, Nelly and Ashanti began dating in 2003. That's 21 years ago. Before breaking up and reuniting recently. They are now married and welcomed their first child together in July 2024. If that kid is not musically gifted, I'd be shocked. I mean, as you said, Ashanti had some real bangers back in the day. She's alive and well, just gave birth, and Nelly has one of the all-time albums, Country Grammar, I believe it was called. It was my senior year of high school. I was at the national program in Ann Arbor, now currently in Plymouth, Michigan.
How many times did you put belly button soup in your belly button to Tip Drill?
To who?
To Tip Drill, the music video Tip Drill.
So I don't know that one, and I don't want to watch it now in case I get too excited while recording, considering there may be some children watching. But I was going to say we just listened every day, front to back. It's not a bad song on that album, and it was Nelly all year long. So just an amazing couple, I think, and we kind of put them together. Maybe did we put them back on the map? That might be overreaching a tad. But I would like to think Ashanti's just back in the scene thanks to Shohei Ohtani and Paul Bissonnette.
I would like to see her downloads, her streams, because that's how they it really I guess what would you say, that value the artist nowadays. It's not about records sold, it's more about how they streaming. I would imagine her streaming numbers have escalated since we mentioned the Ashanti the collaboration. So I would agree with you. They have a lot to thank us for, and the fact that their careers have been reignited. Anything else that you got into this weekend?
This weekend took the boys and my buddy Reggie's kids and Billy Ryan. He scouts for Montreal. We went to the Michigan BU game Friday night. Michigan whooped them, and they got this Michael Hagel kid. I don't know if you've heard about him. Stud, first round pick from Montreal. So Bill's a Montreal scout. He'd been telling me all about him, seeing him play. Big righty, super skilled, nasty laterally. He got injured. He came back in the game, but he didn't play the second night. Michigan won both games. They won an OT 5-4 after winning Friday 5-1. But this kid, he looks legit. He is very good, great skater, has sick hands. I think you're going to see him being a really good player in the NHL based on what I saw in this one game, even though half of it he had come back from going down the tunnel. I had Wyatt at the game. That was his first game. Kind of a nightmare when he realized it wasn't a Leafs game. I kept saying we're going to a BU game, and for some reason in his mind, and then we got there very early to be able to get seats. There's a Mark Bavis box. Mark Bavis was a amazing person. He died on 9/11. He was a scout for the Los Angeles Kings. He played at BU. His twin brother Mike was my assistant coach while I was there. Awesome family. So they have a box in his name that alumni can go to. So we get in early because I think there's about 15 seats in there, and we had 6 kids. So I wanted to get the seats early, and Wyatt saw the Canadian flag, so he's like, Maple Leafs, Maple Leafs. So then he still, for some reason, thought it was a Maple Leafs game, but it was a red and white arena, and it was kind of a disaster when he realized that it wasn't a Leafs game, and he's still waiting for that jersey. For everyone listening, Biz did call me post-recording last week. He said, put me on speakerphone, and he's like, Wyatt, I'm telling him to give you the jersey. So kind of made a nightmare scenario for me there.
Well, then they drop back-to-back games on their fucking road trip. So at this point, I might fly to Boston and wring your goddamn neck out if you don't hand him that fucking jersey. Because everything will turn when Squanto has his jersey. That was the whole point in getting it for him, is we needed that luck early in the season on our side. The Leafs always start out 500 after 12, 15 games. The sky's falling. Everybody in media is losing their fucking minds. Their power play can't get going. All I want is Squanto to have his fucking jersey. Now I'm going to call child services on you. If
November
you don't hand 16th, him that fucking jersey. November 16th, he'll have that jersey, and just watch the run they go on after that. They'll either win every game, or they'll be somehow turning into the 1973 Philadelphia Flyers. So I don't know how that's going to go. I also went through, I think married people might see where I'm coming from on this a little bit more. My wife lost her phone yesterday. Now, here's the thing. She lost her phone in the house. And
when I kind of lose things, it's like I'm on my own. I'm like flipping out and I'm looking everywhere, but she's doing everything. She's cooking, she's cleaning, she's taking care of the kids. So I understand. Well, when she lost her phone, it was the world has stopped, right? And the world is now going to be looking for my phone. And as I'm spending hours looking for this phone, hours, because I'm outside in the backyard with a flashlight and I'm just wondering, like, if this was my phone, would she be helping me the way I'm helping her? Like, how good of a husband am I? I don't really appreciate this right now. I wanted to watch The Penguin, which we already mentioned, this incredible show on HBO. It's starring Colin Farrell, who has a
I
fat
heard he's
suit.
incredible in it.
It's just an unreal show, and it's not for people who don't like superhero stuff. I'm talking to one buddy, Justin Miser, good friend of mine from Edina, Minnesota. He won't watch anything that's fake. Like, that's his thing, which I kind of am like a little
so
bit.
nothing fiction.
Nothing like fake, like nothing superheroes, nothing like Game of Thrones. He won't watch
very
anything
similar.
fake. Okay, well,
similar.
this show, while you may see the Penguin and think of DC Comics or whatever the Batman is, it is straight mafia show, and it's phenomenal. And I can't recommend it enough to anyone. But instead of watching the second to last episode, I have a flashlight and I'm on this grass that's now getting a little frosty as it cooled a little bit overnight, and I'm looking for my wife's phone, and we looked and looked and looked and she didn't find it, and she went and bought a new one today, and what her phone's $1,100, I don't know. And what happens? The cleaning lady comes today and finds her fucking phone.
Where was it?
I don't even know. She just came in here right at the end, holding me the phone. I'm like, can you return the other phone? I mean, it's just one of those things where I think husbands know what I'm saying. Like, the why she does everything for me.
You know what
Everything.
you should get her for Christmas? Is
A phone?
on those Apple Watches, when you lose your phone, you can make a setting where all of a sudden it'll keep beeping until you find it.
You can do that. You can do that even without an Apple Watch. You can do that on Find My iPhone. But we did that, and I taught her all about it. And I said, you can go on, sign in your Apple ID, and you can pick the device you want to find, and you can set off a little flare, and boom, 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 bing, 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 bing. It's making noises. Well, she hadn't turned that on, but somehow that was kind of like my fault a little bit. It was just like, I think married guys know. Well, I will say this again: she does everything. I'm lost puppy without her.
Like, what do you, when you say everything, is she paying all the?
I don't think.
Is she going online?
She would have been helping me find my phone like I was, Biz.
Is she going online, making sure all the bills are paid, like your gas bill? Like, when you say
my accountant pays all the bills. I'm talking the 3 children under the roof.
oh, those people, oh yeah.
You know, the dinners,
The gummy
the
gang.
packing of the lunches, the buying of the clothes, the doing of the laundry, the changing of most of the diapers, all the things that really the list goes on and on. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like signing them up for
Well,
sports.
I don't, but I believe you.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying. So it was kind of a long Sunday night looking for a cell phone that then was found by the cleaning lady. So I know I digress. I want to shout out Mikey Grinelli. We will get into hockey, folks. Mikey Grinelli. What an episode of Chiclets that dropped this past week.
Couple clicks.
Not too many, because the clicks are really, really deserved by the Army student recruit warriors, however we want to call them. But I had a former Army hockey player actually reach out to me, and he was just so grateful and saying thanks for shining some spotlight on these men and these women who are just incredible. Like, to see what they do, to see how beautiful that campus was. The video came out amazing. So shout out you, Pasha, Fishy, everyone involved. Good job.
Thank you. Yeah, it was an awesome video. The reception has been incredible. Shout out to Coach Riley, who is in his final year, 21 years at the helm. Riley has been behind the bench since 1950 at Army. So it was crazy. We got to sit down, chat with him for about 40 minutes. We did the tour with Captain Mikey Sacco, got to go in the dining hall, which is called the mess hall, which was incredible. But it was really cool at the end. We got to hit the Trail of the Fallen. I talked about it briefly last week, but the Trail of the Fallen is, you take this rock up this 2-mile hike, and at the top of the mountain, you basically put down a rock for someone who gave the ultimate sacrifice. And at the end of the video, Mikey Sacco made an amazing speech, and then Coach kind of took over and kept it going, and talked about what it means to be an Army hockey player, and blocking a shot. There's so many simple things like that it's such a minor thing to them. You know what I mean? Where there's so much bigger stuff out there that they're worried about that they have to go face after their hockey career ends. So we dedicated the video to Major Thomas Kennedy and First Lieutenant Derek Hines, who gave the ultimate sacrifice and lost their life in battle. 2 former Army hockey players, where, like, right when you walk in the team room, Derek Hines' team room, Derek Hines quotes everywhere, pictures of him everywhere. You almost get chills because you're inspired by this guy and everything he stood for. So yeah, thank you guys for pointing out the video. Go watch it now on YouTube and Rumble. And it was really fun to film. We didn't want to just rinse and repeat this year, hit Nodak, all these amazing schools with these amazing facilities, but there's so much more to college hockey than, an anti-gravity room or a high altitude room. There's the stories of the players at Army who aren't going to go play pro after hockey, but man, are they some interesting guys. So yeah, go watch that now. And we had a blast filming it.
So definitely the most emotional one you've done so far. That was your 6th Chiclets U video. And like you said, still cool to highlight all the facilities that some of these programs have. But this one was obviously a little bit deeper. Would there be another university that obviously it's not going to be Army, but has a similar story? Like, does Navy have a hockey team?
No, Navy doesn't, but it was cool, Biz. That's a great question because in the video, I learned about the RMC, the Royal Military, the Canada's Armed Forces.
I'd never heard of that team either.
Me either. And they play against Army every year. And, I went in there thinking Air Force, Army, Air Force, Army, Air Force. That's the big rivalry. And then you talk to the guys and in the room, they have this giant cup. And it's from 1923. It's fucking huge. We talk about it in the video. And they're one of their biggest rivals, as they talk about, is RMC. It's USA versus Canada. That's their best on best. And it's it was really cool to learn about that, learn about the power of one. There's so many intricate things about this school that just make it really unique and special. So yeah, it was fun to film. And then there was the IOTC challenge, which that was about as embarrassing as it gets. Like, fuck, I sent you guys the email the day after the day after the video released. I emailed my old trainer and I said, sign me up for 8 sessions. This was bad.
To be
that's
fair,
like G enlisting in the Army, him going to 8 training sessions. He's going to be walking the elliptical.
G's talking about blocking shots not being a big deal. Like he wasn't flamingoing out of the way at Burlington High of a 73 mile an hour.
Well, he was an offensive defenseman. He was like Jans. His job wasn't to block shots.
And I was a shot blocker, so I'm able to kind of tell and sniff out the people who got out of the way. Derek Hines, actually from Massachusetts, played at St. John's Prep. They still have a memorial game every year for him, I believe. And I talked to a friend of mine who had played with him there. He said he was one of the fastest skaters he's ever seen. So, an amazing person. And same with Major Thomas Kennedy. So a great video, G. It's a job well done. It's a job well done,
you
buddy.
And Fishy did an incredible job. Keep it going.
Keep it going. And I guess we could keep it going with some positivity, right? That's what you get out of watching that video in Army. And there's some positive things going on in the NHL right now, Biz. There's some teams that are very happy with where they're at. They're very happy with how things going. On the flip side, there are ones that are maybe panicking a little bit, little disappointment so far. But on the bright side of this league and these teams buzzing right now, the Winnipeg Jets.
Yeah, I feel like a broken record.
I know. But what do you can't not talk about them.
Well, when you're about to reach wagon status, you can't not mention the teams that are going to reach wagon status. And the front runner right now is the Winnipeg Jets, Whitty.
I looked at their record in the last 9 games, so they're 8-1. Now, I will say, they haven't beat the best of teams lately. I'm not dogging them. I'm not calling them frauds. I love the vibe in the building. Kyle Connor. I cannot wait to watch him in Best on Best. The kid is a joke out there, dominating. I believe one more game, and he ties Kevin Stevens for the most games in a row with a point to start an NHL season. He's at 12. Kevin Stevens did it 13 games in a row. Already, what a legend that guy is. And Kyle Connor right now continues to impress me, and he has every season very quietly, kind of because of the Jets. But their wins in the last 9 games, 8 of them, they beat the Sharks. I mean, come on. They beat Pittsburgh. Horrible. But maybe looking a little better. I don't know. They beat St. Louis. They beat Seattle. They beat Calgary. They then lost to Busy's Leafs. They beat Detroit, Columbus, and then they got Tampa on Sunday.
What are you going to do here? What are you going to do? You're gonna try and rag on them after the start, saying maybe
No. I'm a realist, and I'm somebody that's, while being excited and happy for a Canadian city, and apparently the attendance issues you brought up have gone up. They've gotten a little better. I think maybe only one sellout so far this year, which was the Leafs, and the contingent of Leafs fans across Canada might have definitely had something to do with that. So a little surprising, but it's better than it was last year.
Oh, Wendy from Winnipeg is fucking punching her steering wheel right now.
Well,
The
you
fact
can't
that
just.
we were trying to start off all positive and then you're ragging on the teams they beat. It's early in the season, Whitty boy. All the teams are good. The parody's
I
up
like
there.
this team a lot. And they own Edmonton. So I'm not dogging them. I'm just bringing
they're
up
the most
stats.
exciting team in the league right now. They have the highest amount of goals scored through their first, 12 games? 59 goals they got so far right now. Okay. And you mentioned Kyle Connor shaking bacon out there. One of the nicest, he's probably one of the least talked about superstars in the league because he's playing in Winnipeg. Just his one-on-one game and how slippery he is. He ended up getting hurt the other night when Kucherov got him from behind, but thankfully for Winnipeg fans, like a sigh of relief as he goes down the tunnel because of the spotter. They check him out and he's good to go. But I want to say it's the longest it's the longest streak to start a season with a point consecutive streak in their franchise's history, right? To start the season. There was a guy in their franchise who had a 15-game point streak. Do you remember who that was?
I don't know. I mean, it's got to be Timu.
No. Now keep in mind when they moved
I guess this
the team,
isn't their That's not their franchise.
Right. We're going Thrashers and we're going Jets here.
Was it Kovalchuk?
No, it was not.
Hossa.
It was nobody. 15-game point streak. In his second season, Patrick Laine holds the record for longest point streak in that organization's history. That was the season he had 44 goals, 70 points, and that still holds up as the longest point streak. Now, to start the season, I want to say Kovalchuk had a very similar pace. Maybe he had points in the first 10 games to start when he was an Atlanta Thrasher, but nonetheless, Kyle Connor now holds that record. Another record for one of their players, Nikolai Ehlers. He becomes the highest scoring Danish player to ever play in the National Hockey League. Do you know who he passed? Come on.
I'm trying to. So he's got what does he have? 450-ish points now?
Yeah, I think
what
he's close
Danish
to.
player had that many? I can only think of. I don't know.
I'm going to give you a clue.
Okay.
He played for the New York Islanders and the Detroit Red Wings.
Franz Nielsen.
Franz Nielsen. He was.
And I remember he was silky, but I wouldn't have thought he had that many points. I mean, that's a good number.
Me neither. And he didn't really start his career off that hot when he was with the Islanders. It was kind of towards the middle and end of his career where he was getting in that 20-goal range every year and just kept chipping away. But
yeah,
I mean, shout out to Nikolai Ehlers, man. Like I talked about him last podcast. Now, out of that core group of players who they want to keep, he's obviously one of them. But I think there might be an issue right now because Kyle Connor is obviously getting those minutes where he's playing 20, 21 minutes a night, where Ehlers is kind of that second fiddle guy where some of the nights he's coming in at 16, 17, where my understanding is they tried to lock him up and offered him a contract, where as of right now, he's saying, I think I can go somewhere else and get a better payday and get those minutes. So he's proven it all right now. And that's a great 1-2 punch for the Winnipeg Jets and a big reason why they're the highest scoring team in the National Hockey League right now. So
anytime I see somebody that just is coming up on that free agency July 1st and they just light it up, it makes me so genuinely happy for them. Like, it is your time to show up and perform. And if you do, you're going to make so much more money than if you did not. And 17 points already he's got. Is that what he's at? 17 points in 12 games. Now, another guy on the team I do have to bring up, and this Winnipeg love is insane. We always get chirped for not talking about him. And the playoffs were the playoffs. I'm not being negative. But Josh Morrissey and what he's done, it's such an odd, rare case to see his career arc and how it's happened, because everyone's always known, ever since he was drafted, like, great skater, sees the ice well, overall awesome defenseman, right? And he comes into the NHL and you see right away, like, he spends 1 year in the AHL, has 22 points, okay? Nothing crazy. And then he gets 20 his rookie year in the NHL, and 26, 31, 31, 21. Then he hops up to 37. But we're now talking 6-7 years where you usually see, all right, this is who a guy is. This is the player he is. And all of a sudden, I don't know what this guy did, but he is an offensive power from the back end now. He went from 37 points, he jumped up to 76. Last year, he repeated it, 69 points, nice, in 81 games, and 15 points in 12 games. So as a former offensive defenseman, defensively challenged, unlike him, I never remember seeing somebody just kind of quietly, which is 30 and then the 37 points. It's nice. It's great chip in, nice player, but to then pop up to 76 and 69, it's very rare to see that later in a career.
Yeah, no doubt. I think probably a lot has to do with Paul Maurice and giving him those reins. And of course, like we always talk about their top 9 and some of the offensive guys they have on their first few lines. So he's getting to play power play with those guys as well. So the way that they're snapping around, I want to say their power play is first in the league and it's clicking at 44%. They look like the fucking goddamn Edmonton Oilers from last year and the year before that. So it's pretty remarkable what they're doing right now, even from a full body of work. They've allowed the 5th fewest goals as well. That probably has a lot to do with Hellebuck as well, but overall their team defensive game and the way they're able to play in their own end has a lot to do with their success early on. Best goal differential in the whole NHL. They're outscoring what they're giving up 2-1. They're plus 29 goal differential. So you look at all
scoring
these
defense too. High scoring defense.
So they're getting it between him and Pionk. And, you know, I thought their defense would have dwindled a little bit without Dylan, not from an offensive perspective, but just having a big body back there, I would say a good second line pairing guy, a guy who could add toughness and maybe deter the opposition to getting to the net front. But everyone to a man on that team is playing incredible hockey right now. They came in and hit the ground running and took all that adversity they'd faced in that first round last year after getting embarrassed and shoving up everybody's hoop. And I think it goes without saying, we said it last podcast about Hellebuck and his numbers. I wrote down some of the stuff that he's got going on right now. Obviously, he's won 2 Vezinas, looking for his 3rd. He's 6th in goals against average. He's 8th in save percentage. He's 1st in wins, and he's 6th in playing time. So they rely pretty heavily on the guy as well. And one thing that did pop up, though, and we can get in discussion about this, there was a goal against Tampa Bay, and you were pretty fired up about it. You think it's ridiculous. You've seen a few shady ones scored or even disallowed on your Edmonton Oilers. It's this whole goaltender interference. I feel like we haven't talked about it this much since the foot in the crease year with the Brett Hall situation. So there was one that was scored by the Tampa Bay Lightning that you thought for sure was getting called back. And actually his father, Chuck Hellebuck, took to Twitter to be like, what the fuck is going on here, NHL? This is bullshit. Now, I'll let you describe the goal and what you thought of it watching it in real time.
Chuck Hellebuck, what a name.
Yeah.
Quickly, like Chuck Hellebuck? I mean, that guy has to be the man. Hey, I'm Chuck Hellebuck. Oh, can we be friends? So he went on Twitter and he actually tweeted out, he retweeted the video of the goal that stood somehow, and he said, I tuned in late to see this on replay. Geeky number 14 lifts his pad with his stick and then pushes his pad into the net, never touching the puck, then falls on him, and that's not goaltender interference? ? Exclamation point. Come on. Go at NHL Jets. So I was watching the game, fast-paced, good game.
Yeah.
Winnipeg comes back to gets the victory.
How about Merles before the game goes, there's going to be 12 goals here tonight, and there almost was.
And there was 11. But yeah, I hate being the guy to kind of like bring up something that is currently a headache and will only get worse for the National Hockey League, and that is the goaltender interference. I wrote back to Chuck. I said, Chuck, you just got to flip a coin, bud, because there's a chance. No offense to these guys who do good work and they work their ass off in making the NHL the wonderful product that we see, but they have an issue with goaltender interference, and I think there's a chance they're flipping a coin because this one, Biz, I don't know if have you watched the replay of the goal, Biz? Have you seen it yourself?
It's the pushing of the pad and the fact that he doesn't even have to make contact with a puck. Like, that's what's crazy about it. And it's like he's pushing a shovel that's getting snow off of the outdoor rink, how he's pushing his pad. Yeah,
and I just figured
it felt even worse. It felt worse than the one that they even allowed against Edmonton that Michkov scored, that first one, where I felt like almost he'd pushed.
And that was the same day Isamont in Tampa about 2 hours earlier got one taken back. But it's crazy, buddy. It's crazy. And what I'm worried about and could see happening is a Stanley Cup final game being decided on one of these fucking goals where it's game 5 of the cup final, third period, 3 minutes left. And there's millions of people watching the replay and nobody has a goddamn clue, including the guys making the decision in the office. That is what's scary. And that brings us back to the Winnipeg Jets and Connor Hellebuck, because he was the one that was on the wrong side of this push by Geeky, and the goal stood, and he's probably furious. You saw Scott Arniel on the bench, and he's like, when they said goal, and then they got to go on the penalty. You got to get a penalty kill because you get the penalty for challenging the goal. So he's like, what the fuck? And Hellebuck mentions, and I don't know if he mentioned this after the game or a prior time, apparently he put together like a presentation. I mean, something where he put a lot of effort and time into talking and bringing to the NHL what he thought could be a baseline for making this, as he put it, more black and white. Which
from
is
the goalie's perspective.
From the goalie's perspective.
Yeah, to break it down a little bit more. Do you want me to read off the tweet and what you're talking about?
Yes,
this is from Murat Eights. I want to say that's his name. I hope I'm not fucking that up. At WPG Murat, and it's Connor Hellebuck said that a couple of years ago he made a lengthy presentation with detailed interpretations of goaltender interference, charts, video, his viewpoint, the whole 9 yards. Says he knows the NHL has this presentation, doesn't know if they do anything with it. So I would imagine that's probably in Gary Bettman's junk box right now, and he has not gotten it, but I would pay money to see this breakdown and presentation done by Connor Hellebuck. I would love to see the pie chart, the bar graphs, the whole 9 yards, folks. Give me this breakdown by Connor Hellebuck. I want to see Chuck there as a sidekick.
It's like the JFK files that like the government has. Like, what else do you think's in Gary's box that like we can never see besides the Hellebuck presentation?
Oh no, here we go. Here we go.
We might ignore that. We might ignore that one right now. But staying in the Central biz, Positivity Tuesday here at Spittin Chiclets on Election Day, the Minnesota Wild. You know what? I am happy for them. And I tweeted out, I think in game 3, I really like this team. I enjoy watching them play. Bill Guerin, we are biased. He is a friend of ours. He hops on the show in the Central Division preview and he busts our balls. Legend player. Now he's doing a hell of a job as a GM. This team is must watch, and it's must watch because of Kirill Kaprizov. And I texted the group the other day, like, this guy like reminds me of Kucherov a lot, and it's not just the Russian thing, it's the way that he can slow down a game. And we have Brandon Hagel coming on this episode along with Kevin Lowe. We did that back in the Cup Finals, but both these guys, and Hagel's talking about Kucherov and his ability to slow the game down, and Kaprizov's the same thing. I watched the Leafs game Sunday. Awesome game. They ended up Wild win in overtime on a beautiful Matt Boldy breakaway. But Kaprizov, he's in the offensive zone and the puck just follows him, which I think some people, maybe if you never played hockey, you're not sure, it almost looks lucky, but it's hockey IQ and it's knowing where to be on the ice. And like the famous Gretzky quote of, I was a good player when I went to where the puck was, and I became a great player when I went to where the puck was going. Kaprizov knows, and then he wins battles, dude. Like he has that Kucherov fire in him too, where he's leading the league in scoring. He's up for a contract at some point. I think does he have one more year, I believe?
Yeah,
I
he signed a 5-year deal where he made 9.5. I want to say he's got this year and then next year left.
Yeah, so he's eligible for a new deal this summer.
Correct.
And so, I don't know if you watched, I know you watched the game. I don't know if you agree with me on kind of just the puck following him and the way it's always on his stick. It's crazy.
Yeah, and not to take anything away from his line mates, I think he's had great chemistry with Zuccarello, but he could play with two of me and he'd still put up the numbers that he puts up. He's a fucking freak of nature. And they were having a discussion. I want to say it was Fuchs who was doing a Sportsnet show, and they were talking about, is he a top 5 player in the NHL? And based on his 5-on-5 production, I think over the course of the last 5 years, he's 5th on most goals for. And when you could produce 5-on-5, over his last 20 games, he's got 23 5-on-5 points. So it's not like he's just this power play merchant. His ability to score 5-on-5 is really how you evaluate players in today's NHL because of how hard that is to do. Whit, 21 points through his first 10 games of the season, which is a franchise record. Do you know who's next on the list for them?
I'm assuming Gaborik
and Koivu with 14. So he has 7 more points through 10 games. And that was done, I think, by Gaborik in 03. And then it was done by Koivu in 09. So just an absolute electric factory to start. And I don't know what else you could say other than he's must watch. He's got to be up for the Hart. He's got to be a top 3 candidate this early in the season. And he just continues to produce and put that team on his back. Now, another thing, too, that's been huge for the Minnesota Wild. And we'll get back to some even crazier Kirill stats that I was looking up just because of his start. But they got Spurgeon back the last 3 games.
Yep.
Okay. So they
2
got
apples
that
against Toronto.
Buddy, the unbelievable play on the OT goal when Max Domi punted it to try to make the safe play by finding.
What was he doing? What was he doing?
No, I
It was
think
funny.
that
It was funny. It was a funny clip.
I know it's a funny clip, but I think that he knows that he's going to get caught by Spurgeon. He doesn't see his own teammate behind him a little bit who he could have shoveled it off to buy himself a little bit more time. And just a great heads up play by not only Brodin, I forgot who the other forward was, and Spurgeon hustling back and knowing those guys are on the same page and sets him up for that breakaway pass. But to go back to what I was saying, so Spurgeon and Brodin linked up. They played 12 minutes total against the top 2 lines for the Maple Leafs. They didn't allow 1 shot on net.
It's crazy.
They
didn't have either
outshot
guy
the
last
opposition
year.
13-1. I think that they had 2 shot attempts against, and they had 24-4. So to do that against the top 2 lines for the Maple Leafs at home when you're coming off of an injury and you've only played 3 games in which he's +5 and now he's got 2 assists, the fact that they were doing what they were doing without him as their top pairing defenseman, now he's back in the lineup. They're looking even better with that shutdown pair. So just a credit to what they got cooking in Minnesota. They worked their bag off. Hines deserves a lot of credit for the way that he's implemented structure and how they look and how they play, not only 5-on-5, but through their special teams. But it's just been fun to watch. And I'll hand it over to you. I wrote down a couple more Kirill stats, which are just remarkable. But I'll have to shuffle through my pages here to find them.
Well, you did what?
7 straight multi-point games he had going before that Leafs game. And only 5 players since the start of the 2000-2001 season to get that many points, to get 21 points in the first 10 games of the season. Only 5 players have done it. Can you name those players? I know you can name a few of them.
Since 2001?
2000, 2001. 5 players have started out with 21 points or more in the first 10 games of the season.
I'm going to go Yager in like that New York season. No. McDavid.
McDavid's done it twice.
Crosby.
Nope.
Kucherov.
Nope.
Yager didn't do it when he had 125 points. Kucherov hasn't done it.
Nope.
I got McDavid.
McDavid's done it twice. Your boy Leon Draisaitl has done it twice.
How about what he's doing right now? What a horse. Who else? Who are the other 3?
I think this one will very much surprise you, who also did it twice in that period of time. Mario Lemieux. Mario
I wasn't
Lemieux
even
did
thinking Lemux was still ripping it up then.
He came back around and he did it 2 more times, had hot starts like that. And this one I think will surprise a lot of people. Thomas Vanek did it in Buffalo 2012, 2013.
Thomas Vanek was disgusting. Disgusting. For anyone who wants to remember Thomas Vanek, like even before NHL, go watch him in the Frozen Four from Minnesota in the national title game against University of New Hampshire. That guy, 5th overall pick, maybe in 03, 04, he was unbelievable. I forgot about Thomas Vanek. He had 21 points. What did he finish with that year?
No
Do you know
idea.
What season it was?
I think it might have been Big Head Hockey that posted that. And I was just fascinated by the fact that only 5 guys had started out that hot to start an NHL season in the first 10 games of the year. That was starting in 2000-2001 season. That's when that stat.
Biz, Nice stat. Nice stat.
I was digging because I mean, everybody's talking about Kirill the Thrill and the Minnesota Wild, and we don't get to shine enough love on them, especially, the way the last couple seasons have gone. But the fact that they're dealing with the buyouts and they've had this hot of a start, it's great to see. And you talk about this hot start, I think 41 goals through their first 11 games of the season is the most in franchise history as well. So they've had a hard time scoring goals over the years, and this year, not so much a problem for them, and it's because a lot of guys are healthy up front. And another reason for that is Boldy. We had Billy G on before the season saying, when you're dealing with young players, it always comes down to consistency. Last year, he had a bit of a rocky start. He still ends up finishing with a crazy amount of goals because he got hot towards the end. Billy G said, hey, if he puts together a full season, he could be a 50-50 guy. Well, he's not shy off that pace right now with the hot start that he's had. And obviously a good chemistry going on between those guys right now.
And Billy Guerin being the man in charge of Team USA, like, you got to think he's on the team. You got to think that he knows, like, this guy is that good. I get to watch him every day in practice and games. I want him on this squad. He's younger. He's ready then for the Olympics the following year. I love Matt Boldy's game. That little shimmy shake head fake on the breakaway was dirty. Made Stolar go flying to the wrong corner as he shelved it. The crowd looked like it was electric, which it always is in Minnesota. And I guess the last thing for them, Gustafsson's been their horse. He's got a .924 save percentage and a 2.12 goals against. But we got to see Marc-Andre Fleury play what'll probably be his last game in Pittsburgh this past week. And cool. that was so cool. We saw our girl Jen, they had him cut off the netting, so he got to keep the net, the net from the goal. Holy shit, Whit. And just seeing Fleury's big smile, and I was actually thinking, like, he's 39. He turns 40, actually. He's got the same birthday as Ryder, November 28th, because they were saying, oh, he turns 40 November 28th. I said, no shit. And he is still doing it. He's still out there, and when he gets the chance to go in, he gets the win against the Penguins, and it's just so cool to see him kind of get this year where Montreal will honor him being a French-Canadian, and just how good of a guy he is. It was an awesome, awesome night. And the picture of Letang himself, Gino, and Sid, it was great. I guess Army told us that the night before the game, I think himself, Talbot, who was in town to see Fleury, they're such close friends, Sid, Letang, Billy G, and maybe Malkin and Army all went out to dinner, right? I said, oh, fuck, poor Army, only guy at the table without a ring. But it must have been a blast. And the fact that Billy G's Flowers GM and they were all on that same cup team that I got traded from, suck it again with, it's just a cool thing to see him go back to Pittsburgh one final time. Yeah. And he gets there as an 18-year-old with the yellow pads, this superstar first overall pick. And he's back there for his final game with his 3 kids and his wife in a different jersey after a career that'll end up in the Hall of Fame. So a really cool thing for him.
You mentioned that he'll be going back to Montreal, and when we had Mats on, he talked about Guy Lafleur and how when he had this standing O in Quebec that was 15 minutes and not to be outdone in Montreal, they did 17 minutes. Do you think Marc-Andre Fleury gets like a lengthy standing ovation? Do you think he gets like a 10-minute standing?
No, because he didn't play for the Canadians.
Okay.
So I think it'll be a nice big round of applause, maybe a stand-up, but it won't be like Carey Price would get that before Fleury in Montreal. You know what I'm saying?
All right? Fair enough. Okay.
I appreciate that. So on the list of the positivity and the teams that continue to rip up this league, we have the Washington Capitals next. But you know what? They got beat by the Carolina Hurricanes on Sunday, and I think that means we should maybe talk about Carolina first, because another mea culpa for your boy. I was like, man, before the season, I don't know. They lost a lot there. The heartbreak of not getting Gensel to sign back. And this looked like a team that wasn't primed and as ready to dominate the regular season as they had going into this season. It just seemed different. I think, what are they, 9-2 now, Biz? They're looking phenomenal. And this Martin Necas is dominating. He's lighting the league on fire, and it's after a summer in which there was discussion of him being traded, him not wanting to be there. He was, I think, mentioned as the guy that would have been the big one if Elias Pettersson had been traded from Vancouver before the deadline and going back to Vancouver. Maybe Vancouver fans would actually kind of.
Oh, they would love that.
I wouldn't mind having him right now. But
at a discount,
what have you
too.
seen in like? What do you like with Carolina? Are you as surprised as me that they look this good with this much change?
No, they just come out so hard. Like they just skate. Right? They just cover so much ice throughout the game. So it's just business as usual. They're getting great goaltending from Anderson. Gostisbehere. Like how did nobody sign that guy? What an incredible move. He ended up going there at the deadline a few years back. I think it was Arizona who ended up dealing him, and he fit right in like a glove. And then he ended up, I think he was in Detroit last year, and they ended up getting him back, where he's a great offensive defenseman, can really carry a power play, but not really that much of a liability defensively. And I think it just goes back to the fact that they all work well as a unit, man. It's 5 guys every time you step over the boards, the way that they're playing man-on-man D, where, listen, we don't need to get into the fact whether we think that fizzles out come playoff time or whether they don't have enough game breakers to get themselves over the hump. But when you got guys like Svechnikov doing what he's doing, and then specifically Necas, like I think the issue with Necas was kind of like we were talking about Ehlers, where when Gensel, if Gensel's there, he's kind of got his time, and the players ahead of him who are getting that ice time, he felt that if he got that ice time, he could produce what they were doing. And I think that that's where the battle was. So he takes that bridge deal. And right now, man, the way that he's going, if he could do this throughout the course of the whole season, he might be like the other one we were talking about in Kaprizov re-up and come July 1st. So just, I guess I'm not as surprised about their hot start, because they always start hot because they're always prepared coming into the year. I'm just more interested to see where it goes from here. Like, is this still a team that could end up winning their division? Like, do you think that they could overtake the Rangers? Like, do you think that they're that good?
I don't know. Like, Shesterkin right now is so dominant and playing so insane that I don't even know if the Rangers are as good as like their record says, because he's unbeaten. He's a freak show. Even when they lose, he's making like 5 ridiculous saves a game. So I think they could. And now, if you look at Carolina, like looking at their roster right now, what's kind of crazy is like Jarvis, it's 10 games. So they're 8-2. I said 9-2. Jarvis has only 3 goals in 10 games. So that'll end up changing. But like Roslovic, he's got 6 goals already. That's a guy like where does he fit in? He was on the Rangers last year. Like he seems to have success early on and then kind of fall down the lineup on other teams. Like, can he continue this?
Just like their team in general.
Yeah. But Necas, like, I think part of it is that defensively, I think Brind'Amour was always asking for a little bit more. Like, he's like, I know that there's more that you can give on the other side of the puck. And maybe now it's lack of options and lack of Gensel, and no matter what, he's getting the minutes. But it seems like Brind'Amour is pretty honest in terms of like, you're going to get the minutes if I trust you out there. And offensively, I don't think there's ever been a question. And now he's doing it at an even crazier level. So the team, now Freddie Anderson's now injured. I don't think it's that serious. Come on. Yeah, it's crazy. And they're never like super season ending. And one of them was the blood clot. So that's not injury prone, right? That's just bad, brutal luck. But that's the question. Like, what do you do? What do you do in net? Can you rely on him? Like, we think we can win a Stanley Cup every year with this roster. We've been close, Eastern Conference Finals, second round. It's just we haven't been able to get over the hump. We need goaltending, and when Anderson's in, he's great, and he's just not in that much. So that's a question we can kind of keep our eye on.
No doubt. You did mention, I don't really have much else on Carolina, but just Wash from last week when we recorded, Ovi only had 2 goals. A little bit of a slow start, but then boom, 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 boom. He's got 5 goals since we last recorded. So now he's got 7, and now he's actually on pace to beat Wayne Gretzky's record at the end of this year. I will say this on behalf of a hockey fan, or I would assume the NHL is hoping that we can stretch this out at least to the beginning of next season to really highlight this. I personally,
I don't know, man.
I want to see him get very close.
No,
and not break it this year.
I disagree with you.
I disagree with you. I think you're a fucking moron. We need to stretch this out. Buddy, next year, let's say he's 8 goals away. During the doldrums of the season where we're battling against football and all these other sports, college football, NFL, I want October, November to be Ovi watch at the beginning of next season. I want them to have success. I want them to make playoffs this year. I want them to get, 35 goals, but I want them to leave a little fat on the bone for us NHL fans so we can squeeze every last bit of entertainment out of this next year. We got to Whit.
So he's 34 away from tying, I believe. He's at 860 now. 894, make sure I believe is the record. Okay? He needs 35 more to break it. That would give him 42 this season. And to me, it's like 39 years old, this sick fuck, he ends up doing it with 42 goals as a 39-year-old. Like, that adds to me when you're saying like he's 8 to 10 away. It's like, no, buddy, he ripped up 42 as a 39. I'm 41. You've seen my body. You're 39 as well, Biz. Like, scoring 42 right now, you can't even not just dislocate your back after doing yoga one time.
I would have pulled my L5S1 the way he was back checking 2 games ago. Did you see that back check all the way from the ozone all the way to the top of the crease? I would put money on the fact that he's on the gas though. After that
you think he's on the gas?
I think after that slow start, something happened, and then all of a sudden he's back checking that fast. 5 goals in a week. You got to imagine he's doing a couple of those balloons. Remember the way Dahlman described it? I think he's for sure on it.
I'd love one of those balloons. Looking for my wife's cell phone, just balloon me, and then I'll just search around, find it in 2 seconds.
I know we mentioned Stromer last pod, but you still got to stick with him. I think he's 8th in scoring right now in the league, maybe 10th, 17 points. And it goes back. There was that Big Head Hockey was talking about it too. It's that, I think it was the 2015 draft. You got Kirill, Connor, Strome, Eichel, and Rantanen all at the top of the league in scoring right now. So sometimes it takes them a little bit of time to get going, but they're getting some good production from that 2015 draft. And
we talked to Brandon Hagel actually about being on the Blackhawks with Strome and if he could tell how good he was going to be. And so you can listen to that to hear a little bit more about him. And then I think Connor McMichael is someone who, it's a cool story because it's a high draft pick that didn't go in and light it up. Like these aliens who dominate the league as 19-year-olds. That's not real life. That's not normal. Give some time, give some patience. And now you're seeing a player. This guy's making plays, and Carberry, Merle's actually texted us, please, somebody put $1,000 for me on DraftKings for Carberry to win the Jack Adams. I believe he's 8-1 right now. This guy's going to do it this season. So we'll see if this continues. Lindgren's been good. I think it was kind of a weird goal. Orlov shot a rocket one time, but he was like ass on the boards. It went in for the game-winning goal Sunday against Carolina, but it's been a cool story. The Ovi thing, the defense, and basically like an overhaul of the Capitals from last year, getting in the playoffs but being ripped on the entire year by fools like us, and then to get swept. It's like this team is like not good, and now they are good, and now it's exciting. And the Ovi story, I disagree with you. I think 42 to break the all-time record at his age.
What would be cool though? If he did break it this year, game 82 is against the Pittsburgh Penguins. That would be cool if it was in a game where it was against Sidney Crosby, if he broke the all-time.
And they're cruising into the playoffs and he becomes the all-time leading scorer and the Pens are going golfing. Oh boy, that would be a storyline right there. So you just changed your mind, but he has to do it game 82, you're saying?
Game 82, or I don't want it done till at least the 12 or 15 game mark of next season. I'm curious to know what fans would think of that. I think if it's this incredible season and they're fighting for like maybe even like winning the division by the end of the year and he breaks it, sure, but I don't know. I just like to see them kind of gain as much attention at the start of the year and take a focus away from the NFL, much like they did this past Sunday. They were going head to head. I think Gary was taking some of my advice.
Yeah, so an enormous argument we got into last season when you said you wanted to just like have 12 games every Sunday in the fall, and all of a sudden yesterday, what were there yesterday? It seemed like there were 4 or 5, some good ones too.
Battle of Alberta was on.
Battle of Alberta was going on. Toronto, Minnesota played a great one, and then Carolina, Washington, and
how about
you think Gary's listening to you?
Islanders against the Rangers too, to kick things off, and then Winnipeg, Tampa. They had a lot of action going on Sunday, going head to head with the Goodell. I think that a lot of NFL games get so blown out and boring by the end, you would want to switch over to a good hockey game, and a lot of people had that opportunity. So that's my philosophy. If I was in charge, maybe I get fired after a week after making that choice, but I'm still sticking to it. I don't give a fuck. Hockey rules. Sunday is God's day and the day for hockey.
Guys, real quick, before we go any farther, sadly, summer has come to an end. Fall is here, but that doesn't mean the Labatt Blue Light should stop flowing. Whether you're on the golf course, at beer league, or just watching some football with the boys or girls, you can't find a better beer than a fresh Labatt Blue Light. Lots of things are better together. Hockey, food, golf. But if you want to take things to the next level, drink some Labatt Blue Lights with your friends and live life to the power of we. Biz will actually be doing some stuff with Labatt next week in Buffalo, and so will Chiclets U in Michigan. So make sure to stay tuned for more info. And you just know Sabres fans could use a few blue lights after the way they've started this season. And remember, take a page out of the Labatt Blue Light book and enjoy your beers together so you can live life to the power of we. Find Labatt Blue Lights at labattusa.com/finder.
And to keep with the hot as a pistol theme, now we got to keep this team on the radar. They're 6-5 to start the year, but their fan base have been barking. Ottawa Senators, they can score with the best of them. They can score in Bunchel. Timmy Stützle is looking like the real deal. But Whit, they're only one game above 500. Can they continue to outscore their problems defensively? Like, do you think that this is a playoff team? Everybody's all horned up offensively for the Ottawa Senators because every game they're putting in 4 or 5 fucking goals in the net. But can they keep it out of their own net to finish off the year here?
I'll tell you this, like, I look at them above and beyond higher and more likely to get in the playoffs than Detroit or Buffalo. So, like, you're talking about that three-legged circus in those 3 teams, and one of them, if not more, having to do something this season. Ottawa, to me, like, I know we chirped him in the preview, but the way that they look, and Stützle is ridiculous. Like, his contract, his speed. Now, the diving, if you ask players around the league, they don't love
tell
that.
Canadians fans.
They don't love the accused diving of Tim Stützle, but he's a game breaker. He's a legit offensively, like, super talented game breaker. And when you have that, and then you have the meat and potatoes in Brady Tkachuk and the Batherson guys, that's the one to me, like, that when he's out, you're constantly hearing they need Batherson, and now you see what he's doing. And I do like this team. I mean, now that I've watched them, now maybe I like them because the games are entertaining and they're high scoring and they're high flying. I think Ullmark will figure it out. I think that this defense will be better. I mean, fuck, man. Like, if you look at this team compared to the Bruins, who do you like more?
Right now, I think the Bruins will figure things out. They have a lot
I think you're more likely to see Ottawa in the playoffs than the Bruins.
No shit, eh?
Yeah, I do. I do. But think of the Bruins. Like, you got Pasta, and we can, at some point talk about the Montgomery sitting him the whole third period. There's Pasta, and Marchand's still a hell of a player, but they got. I mean, after Pasta, what does Ottawa have? 4 forwards who are better than the next Bruins forward?
That's fair. That's a good point. Including this Adam Gaudette kid, too. I don't know if you followed his story. Spent
Great
the whole
story.
year last year in the American Hockey League. I think he played maybe 2 NHL games last year, and he's already got 6 goals for them. So you like to hear these stories of guys kind of rejuvenating their careers, especially after getting sent to the jungle and coming back up, and he's just hot as a pistol right now.
It's great. He's a local guy from the Boston area, played at the same high school I did, Fair Academy. Then he spent a year in the USHL, goes to Northeastern, lights it up, ends up winning the Hobey Baker. So you're like, he's on the path here, right? Like, this kid has been a scorer everywhere he's ever been able to put the puck in the net, get points. He's gets to the NHL and like, you know, things are hard, dude. He had a quote in the Ottawa paper I was reading, like it's really hard to get in this league, and it's even harder to stay in the league. And Travis Green had him in Vancouver when he originally came in, and talk about him now. He said he's just a more mature player on the ice. And he talked, Gaudette himself was mentioning like in the AHL, like learning, like I'm going to have to be responsible defensively. And I think the article also mentioned like a lot of guys in his shoes after a couple years in the AHL, you're like, all right, I'm going to go try to make a bunch of dough in the KHL, go over to Europe. But no, he was like, I'm going to get back to the NHL, and he's worked his way back. I think he's playing on the fourth line too for Ottawa, and he had 6 goals in 5 games. And it's something where you're looking at like, wow, he's got the offense. So if you can get him to play sound defensively and have be one of those fourth, third line guys who can score when he gets the chance, like that would be a nice piece for Ottawa. And they actually put him on waivers after camp. So anyone could have grabbed him, and then somehow made the decision from the waiver wire till the opening night roster that he was going to be playing. And that's grabbing the bull by the horns. Like that's taking advantage of a second chance. And so it's a cool story because he is a local guy. And Ottawa, yeah, I'd rather be an Ottawa Senators fan than a Boston Bruins fan. I guess that kind of ends there's other positive stories, but in terms of this show right now, it ends it.
I just think that there's a lot of like energy being wasted in Boston. It goes back to the Swayman signing and how that was drawn out. Obviously, Marchand dealing with the injuries to start the year, like coming back from all those surgeries, him getting into Monty, and then press kind of making that a bigger issue than it needed to be. Now you got the benching of Pasternak by Monty the whole third period the other night. The fact that Monty's waiting for his contract and they haven't figured that out, that's got to be looming and I'm sure weighing on him. He does seem a little bit more, he seems like Monty's always been a little bit animated on the bench, but he seems more animated this year where his you're seeing more frustration on his face. And like I just said, like showing more of his emotion. So I just think there's a lot of oxygen being taken out of the room from an overall perspective from the Boston Bruins.
I agree with you on that. And I do want to say, like, I don't hate at all a coach benching a star player. I think that at times it really wakes up the whole room. It can really wake up a player because you're publicly embarrassing him. And being a proud like star like Pasternak, it pisses you off. Now, after kind of being called out before Game 7 or in the Toronto series last year, now it's a second thing. And so now it's like, all right, there's obviously something in Pasta's game that kind of drives Monty a little crazy at times. And I think there are Bruins fans who say like the occasional turnover, like blue line turnovers, like things like that. I think Monty had kind of seen enough. Now, you also got to mention it's 2-0 Seattle. Right. So if they're down 0-2 and your job is kind of on the line right now, you don't have a contract next year.
I was just going to ask you that. You think if they miss playoffs, he's done?
I think he could be done this year if they don't really get going. I think if they lost to the Flyers Saturday and the Kraken Sunday, he could have been let go.
I think Elliot had a really important note, I think, in 32 Thoughts today that said Don Sweeney wasn't on the trip this weekend. So it kind of made it seem like he's not like code red flag.
Okay, maybe that's a ridiculous statement by me. And I'm not saying I agree with it, but I'm saying there's definitely signing Zadorov and signing Lindholm, which you can talk about on its own on another conversation. There's pressure to like win this year. And I don't think they have a team that can do it, but I don't think that the leash is super long. Like they haven't signed him. They haven't given him an extension. If all of a sudden the Bruins are 7-11 and this guy isn't even signed for next year and beyond.
Winning the President's Trophy to having the numbers they did last year with losing their first 2-line center. And then all of a sudden,
how this league is.
Well, I understand, but who else are you going to replace him with? I mean, he's got to be a pretty good, pretty well sought after coach. I think Quenneville's name has been coming up a ton, even from people I've talked to.
With Bowman back in the league, he's getting a job this season if he wants one. I think you're crazy if you fire your coach right now, and Joel Quenneville would be willing to come to your team if you don't hire him. I think you're nuts. And I'm not saying that the Bruins should get rid of Monty at all. I actually think it would be like, holy fuck, like
you're also insinuating that it's close. That if they would have lost those two games,
that's me guessing. I mean, Elliot knows way more, and he's saying it's not. So I'm wrong.
Biz, one thing you always say, I feel like too, is big guys take longer to get going. The Bruins have the biggest roster in the NHL. The team goes as Brad Marchand goes. He's coming off 3 surgeries. He's 36 years old. He's going to start a little slow. I get the worry for the first 10 or so games of the season, but I think the Bruins are going to cruise into the playoffs.
I couldn't agree more. And I think that as we know, early on, they get all horny to call so many penalties, takes the flow out of the game. All of a sudden, all these high-flying young guys who came into camp, they're trying to show their stuff. Even some of the younger players in the league, I feel like the pace of play will slow down after 20 games. And listen, Boston's not the fastest team, but they do play in structure. They usually have pretty good special teams. And I think that, and obviously they get good goaltending with Swayman. I think that they're going to figure things out. And I think there's nowhere near to throw a panic button out there. And I think it's a little bit lunacy to say that you would pick Ottawa over Boston making playoffs. You're a fucking moron for that. They should kick you out of Boston for making that comment. They should kick you out of town.
How is that like that crazy? Like it's a high scoring league. Like the Senators have a goalie who's proven in the past he's a very good goalie. They have a couple defensemen that are great, especially at moving the puck, and they have sick forwards. They have a very
they haven't
skilled
made playoffs since Erik Karlsson used to play in his own end.
What does that matter? At some point, the Bruins aren't going to make it, and Ottawa's going to make it. I think the Bruins do get in. But right now, if you're looking at roster construction, dude, and you're looking at like putting the puck in the net, which the Bruins look like it's not easy right now, I'm looking at Ottawa's forwards and saying that is a super talented forward group. Now, mind you, Pasha's on the side here. Address Pavel Kasper Zacha. So obviously he's happy as a pig in shit because Zacha's come out slow, but Zacha's one of your top 2 centers, and so is Lindholm. Lindholm is a nice player. When Lindholm put up huge numbers, he had 2 stars in Matthew Tkachuk and Johnny Gaudreau. Like, it's different. Yes, he has Pasta. Is he even playing on his line right now? And Lindholm's an awesome player. Is he a true number 1 center? No, I don't think he is. So I don't think like saying the Bruins could end up struggling a little bit this year is that crazy, man. Like Zadorov, very nice player. I think Bruins fans, when they hear his name and see the signing, they were like, oh, maybe I thought like maybe a little bit more offense. Or now a big guy, so maybe he's come out a little bit slow. But right now, while early in the season, to say the Bruins are going to walk into the playoffs is kind of crazy. The only reason I'd actually agree with you is because Swayman and how good he is and how their defensive zone will figure itself out. And I think McAvoy's had a little bit of a slow start. You know he's going to end up being the star player he is. But all I'm saying is if you
Ottawa
watch the Bruins right now,
6-5, and because they got a few fancy forwards, Whit's willing to throw his hometown city under the bus.
It's a little bit of an alarming start for the Bruins. If you can't see that and see the talent on Ottawa,
you are more negative towards the Winnipeg Jets than you've been towards the Ottawa Senators, and they're 6-5.
No, Ottawa's still kind of Jekyll and Hyde and running around their own zone. But I believe in scoring, and they can score.
That's true. They're exciting to watch. You know who can't score?
The Islanders.
Oh, my God. They got shut out 4 fucking times in their first 10 games, and they lost Anthony Duclair 4-6, Matthew Barzal 4-6. Literally the only 2 players worth watching and giving my time towards.
Brock Nelson, Bo Horvat.
That's true.
Horvat.
But he won't be there in a few weeks. They got to get rid of him and go give him some life somewhere else. Brock Nelson has been carrying that franchise for far too long. Lou lets him. They need to let him go eat. They need to let him go win something because they ain't winning shit with the New York Islanders. I think I regret that picking them to make playoffs. We got Lou and Patty Waugh at war right now, Whit, and they can't win a fucking hockey game.
That we're gonna throw the rumor one on that. The rumor boys one on like I don't know if they're technically at war. We mentioned a couple quotes last week that Patrick Waugh thought
they're at war.
Like there's just I don't want to be at war against Lou. He's like the old gangster guy. He'll blow up your car.
That's true. Yeah, you don't want that.
Not only is Barzal and Duclair out, Adam Pellick's out. Romanov's out on D. Mike Riley's out on D. That was kind of scary. He hit his head on the ice, I believe. I don't know who that was against the other night.
Hey, have no fear. Dobson is here.
Noah Dobson is going to be on your Team Canada blue line. And yeah.
You got Noah Dobson making the Team Canada?
Yeah.
Not a chance.
Okay, well, you have Lowry and Tom Wilson. So that's your 2 picks, and I'll take Dobson. And I think the betting markets right now would put me at like a minus 900 favorite of being correct over your 2 picks.
Okay. Well, he's been struggling to start the year. To say the least. To say the least.
Their whole team has been. Attendance issues, Biz. We went to the arena, middle of nowhere. I know I've brought this up. Not great. Not nice to see a pretty new building and not many people going to the games and a very aging team that now has big injury problems. So Frankie Borelli is a sad man somewhere right now. He's sitting in a room and he's probably close to tears thinking about those 2 finals, Eastern Conference finals trips they made. And one of them could have had them playing the Canadians in the Stanley Cup final. I don't know if you have anything else in the Islanders and Lou being
I don't
want
to. Actually, the Islanders getting mentioned took my mood down a little bit. We should probably get it back up by sending it to Hagel pretty soon.
We can throw it right now over to Brandon Hagel. Really cool story. We thought he was from Saskatoon. He was born there, has family there, but grew up in Alberta. Not drafted in the Dub. Not signed by the Sabres in the NHL draft. He'll go into it, but he's turned out to be a star in the league, and he's lighting it up for Tampa. So right now we're going to go to Brandon Hagel. What's up, guys? It's Whit, and before we continue, we got to talk about sport clips. It can be very intimidating sometimes to get your hair cut, and everyone knows what I'm talking about. You're going in somewhere, you're not exactly sure what you want or how to tell them what you want, and then you walk out like you lost a bet or got a free bowl of soup with the haircut. So it's completely different at sport clips. You know what you're getting every single time you go in there, and you know that your stylist will be able to deliver a great haircut. And now Sport Clip stylists have been specially trained. There's great news that they've been specially trained in the nuances of men's hair, taking the worry out of getting a bad haircut. I just said worry because that's how I say the word. Some people say worry. You got no worries with Sport Clips. So whether you're going for the tight fade, a slick back mullet, or just think that looking like Patrick Mahomes will make you a better quarterback, Sport Clip stylists are here to do whatever you need to feel confident. Nothing says confidence like a great haircut, and nobody does great haircuts like Sport Clips. It's a game changer. We are now pleased to be joined by a man who's popped off in the National Hockey League the last 2 seasons, a Sasky boy, so Colby Armstrong's jealous, and a former Red Deer Rebel, Tampa Bay Lightning star forward, Brandon Hagel. Thanks for joining the show, buddy.
Thanks for having me, boys.
Where are you guys at now?
We're in St. Louis. Got St. Louis. We've been on I think this is 9-dayer, I think. St. Louis, and then back home. We play Philly on Thursday, and then we have a 6-day break.
Probably a good thing considering everything that was going down there, to start the year. That was crazy with all those hurricanes. And my understanding is the organization was even nice enough to fly all the families, the dog, the cats, everyone's pets all the way up to Carolina before you guys ended up playing your first game there, right?
Yeah. It was crazy, to be honest. I mean, you drive around where a lot of us live, and it's it hasn't happened like this in over 100 years, flooding like that. Houses are toast. Anything that was on sea level is done. Beds and couches and everything just on the side of the road. And then a week later, another one's coming. So all this debris is all over the place. But like you said, the management was nice enough. I know we did it a few years ago. We went to Nashville, but yeah, it was hilarious. Everyone, dogs, cats, whatever you got, you're coming. We had a Great Dane on the plane. I couldn't imagine what he was going through.
Who brought cats on the plane?
I don't know if anyone actually brought their cat. I think they left it back.
You'd have to leave it before letting the team know you have a cat. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Vasilevsky's I'm the only cat on this flight.
He's flying underneath the plane with his cats.
Exactly. And then we get on the plane and we got to be there at 2:00, and the pilot comes on, and we have all these dogs. Everyone's ready to go, and it's we're not leaving for another 2.5 hours. The traffic in the air is just like, so we're like all these dogs are probably drugged out because trying to get them to relax till we get to Carolina. But yeah, it was pretty absurd, but pretty crazy that, I memean, lucky enough for the Lightning organization to do that.
Have you purchased a house down there? Are you a homeowner there? Like, what's your deal now that you signed your big ticket?
Yeah, I bought a house last year and it was finished built like September 16th. So a week later, the hurricane came.
Come on.
I'm just like, yeah, it was brutal. My entire there was like 4 feet of water in my garage. Both my cars are totaled. And I just got my car too. I ordered a car, like I waited like 8 months for it. And both of them totaled. Like I had like not even 1,000 miles on it.
What'd you go with?
I had a Porsche Cayenne GT and then Ghost.
Just spending that dough right away, right? You got that big ticket, you're just letting it fly.
Yeah.
Any other expenditures, like anything else you bought to treat yourself? I saw you at Stampede. I would imagine quite a few charges.
Yeah, I treated myself there nicely. I mean, that was right around July 1st, so I'd go to the Stampede, treat my boys a little bit. That's some fun. But other than that, no, pretty simple.
Yeah, that was the first time I actually got to meet you, and it was a great weekend. Had a blast with you. Now, Whit brought up the fact that you're from Saskatoon. What was it like growing up there? I mean, you must have had a blast.
I mean, I was like born in Saskatoon. My entire family's from there still. I think my dad has 3 brothers, 2 sisters, and there's only 2 of us back in Alberta. And then the same with my mom's side. They're all out in Saskatchewan too. So I was there when I was only like 1 or 2 years old, and then we moved to Morinville, Alberta, and I lived there pretty well my entire childhood until I went and played hockey in Red Deer.
Who was your squad growing up?
I was an Oilers fan. But I was like an Ovechkin fan as well. So I was kind of like, I like the Oilers, but I liked Ovechkin, I guess.
I mean, you saw some tough Oiler teams. Some of those teams I was on, it was horrific.
Yeah. I remember it all. I was probably standing outside freezing my ass off, and you drove right by me and didn't give me an auto.
Were you a seeker when you were younger? Waiting for autographs from the guys?
After a match, for sure, I'm standing out there.
What about?
He's got his Oilers earmuffs on. He's just like, "Hey, Whit." I'm like, "Fuck off, kid! I heard you booing me."
Yeah, you fucker. What about playing on the pond? Was that a big thing for you growing up? Like all the outdoor stuff?
Yeah. I mean, we were on the outdoor rink pretty well. I mean, every weekend, every chance we kind of got, that was kind of the thing. I mean, I grew up in a town with like 5,000 people, and we were like, I don't know, 20 minutes away from St. Albert, like 40 minutes from Edmonton. So as a kid, you couldn't really leave. There was a skate park in the pond. So in the summer, I'm ripping the skate park. The winter, I'm ripping the pond. So kind of how it was.
You had a skateboard. You were doing all the tricks and everything. You were one of those guys.
Yeah, I was into that when I was younger.
Do you have airwalks?
I don't know. I would just go to the skate park and do my thing, I guess. I don't know. That was kind of the thing, I guess, growing up.
Would you wear the Jenko jeans? I used to wear the Jenko jeans, the big wide bottom ones. I used to look like a fucking loser.
You wore the mega boot cuts. Hey, no, I didn't take it that far. Like
the bottom of the jean covered my whole shoe.
Yeah, I'd wear them in the winter. DCs on too, hey?
Oh yeah. I used to. What was the shop I used to go to? Was it Arlie's, the name of it? It was a skater shop. I ended up working there when I was playing pro to keep myself out of trouble too.
I was a West 49 type of guy. I would go there, new skateboard, couple pairs of shoes.
Exactly.
Well, everything that like I've kind of read or seen, like it seems like you were a late bloomer. Like I don't know if right off the bat you were not one of the top players, but you were passed over in the WHL draft. Is that true?
Yeah. So it's kind of a little bit weird. I mean, when I was younger, like the WHL draft, I think I was 5'2", 100 pounds maybe. Like I was always tiny.
Really?
I didn't really like. I mean, we had like the Alberta Cup thing, and then we ended up winning it there, and everyone on our team went to like top 80, and I think I was like the only one and maybe one other guy that never went. So I was never involved really in any of those things. I never went in the dub draft, and I got like listed by Saskatoon, and I was like, I think I'm going to go to school. I had a good little setup in White Court, not too far from home. So I went back to White Court. I played 2 games, and then Red Deer called, and they were hosting the Mem Cup that year. And I was kind of just like, that'd be a pretty cool experience. It was close to home too. So I went and checked it out, practiced for a couple games, and they offered me a contract or whatever you want to call it. And I ended up staying there, and that was kind of it.
So when you guys win that Alberta Cup and like these guys are getting picked, were you rattled? Like, it doesn't seem like you're a guy who's maybe getting too down on himself, but at that time you're like, this sucks. Like, why didn't I get picked? Or more just like, I'm going to keep doing my thing.
I think it was a little bit frustrating, but that was like the start of everything. I think that's why as years went on, I coped with it a little bit more. I mean, I went on, and after that one, it sucked. I'm a little kid. I mean, all you think about is the WHL, and I watched that growing up. The Oil Kings, you go to a game as a kid and you're like, there's no way I'll ever be able to do this, just type of things like that. And when you have the opportunity, I never got drafted. And then, I mean, as my career went on, I think that's honestly the best thing that ever happened to me is as my career went on, I went through so many more like heartbreaks. I mean, let alone getting drafted to Buffalo and the story goes on and stuff like that.
So you played in the AJHL. You said you had a nice little school set up. Does that mean you were planning on maybe going to university after playing in the AJHL? Like, what did you mean by a good school setup?
Yeah, I think I wanted to, like, the coach there at the time he was really good for like scholarships in the NCAA. It was like tons of guys were getting scholarships out of there. And I got called up, I think, like a couple times maybe when I played AAA, midget AAA at the time, and whatever. I had a good relationship with him, and I just kind of wanted to go over there. I thought maybe NCAA and I wasn't the smartest, but I saw some guys getting some scholarships over there that weren't the smartest either. So
hey, if you could put the puck in the back of that, they'll help you on your SATs.
Exactly.
I don't know. Keith Yandel couldn't get into college.
So you had to go put up 100 points in the queue in order to get it. Now, one thing that I don't understand is why they do the WHL draft a year earlier than they do in the OHL and the Q. Is that still a thing? And obviously you said that you were like 5'2", 100 pounds soaking wet. Like, that's probably a big reason as to why you hadn't hit your growth spurt yet, is kids are getting drafted at what, 14 or 15 years old in the
I think
dub?
it's like, I think it's 15 years old maybe. It could even be 14. I can't even remember, but it's a young age. I mean, to be honest, I think it's maybe a little bit too young, but it's kind of is what it is. It's been going on for so long, but I mean, like you said, there's so many late bloomers, especially a year can do a massive difference in just being able to show your abilities and stuff like that.
How big of a wake-up call was it when you got to Red Deer? I mean, you hear all these stories about Brent Sutter and how he trains these kids to become eventually grown men and pros. Like, was it a pretty big wake-up call going there your first year?
Yeah, my first year was, I mean, everyone knows the Sutter brothers if you're from that area. And with Brent, he was obviously intimidating at the start. And I ended up growing a huge relationship with Brent, and he was one of the best things. I give him a ton of credit for my career. I mean, he pushed me, and he pushed a lot of these guys like they weren't all going to make the NHL. He just wanted you to be able to be your best at your job, whether because he knew not everyone was going to go to that next level. He pushed you to work and be the best version of yourself, because maybe hockey isn't the thing, but he knows if you go to your job that you're going to be. He tried to put that style into you, and that's what he did for me. And I remember when I got drafted to Buffalo and I never signed, it was kind of one of those things again. I remember him being the first one calling me and was like, it's like, hey, don't worry about it. He's like, if you do everything you can this summer, then I'm going to do whatever I can for you this summer. And he went out there and found a centerman that was able to play with me, and I ended up having a heck of a year. And I think I signed like 15 games in or something.
That's awesome.
So that's what's wild about what Army's told us about Sutter. We had him on the show, very entertaining. Like, I didn't expect him to be as funny as he was, but Army just said how loyal he was, and he could motherfuck you, and if you weren't playing, he'd let you know. But you did know he had your back, huh?
Yeah, he was one of those guys that, like, him at the rink is like, he might be one of the nicest people out there. Like, honestly, outside the rink, like, and then inside the rink, I mean, me and him we had our battles, like. But I knew he cared about me, and I knew those battles weren't like, screw you, kid, like, wake up. Like, I knew he just wanted the best out of me, and he knew he saw something in me, and I could tell every time he had his back, whether we went toe to toe, getting mad at each other, yelling at each other, is what it is. But he was, I give him a ton of credit for my career and helped me get to where I am today, because he did push me to that limit. And there's no better coach than having a guy that has your back, and you know that.
Where I didn't really play with Army that much when I was in the Penguins organization, like, because he was up and down at the time. But my first real experience of playing with a guy long term was Boyd Gordon, who played with Brent Sutter. And we would have beers, and I just listened to him tell stories about the antics that he would like the time where they were playing soft, and he came in between periods and he threw a bunch of wood sticks in the middle of the room. He took all their one pieces away, and they had to try to saw and tape their sticks in time to get out for the period. And by the time the period started, they only had like half the team was out there playing, and the other guys were still trying to saw their sticks. Oh, with some shitty ass saw, you know, the saws they give you on the road. You might as well have to sandpaper the knob down. That's how bad those fucking saws were.
Literally. Yeah.
Were there
saw bends? You know that saw? It's so weak. It's like,
yeah.
Oh,
your stick comes out like this. You're like, that'll do.
Hey, fuck it. Were there any like crazy stories that you had like that where he ended up like snapping on the boys? Maybe it was a bag skate returning from the road late night, being like, put your gear back on. Anything?
No, there was nothing to that extent. I know we biked a couple times after games in our gear, but like that was kind of just like that was just like, that's just kind of how he was, and he was old school, and he was old, like that's the way he was, and it was funny. I mean, I enjoyed it sometimes. I mean, it was scary at times, but I mean, getting on your bike with the boys with your gear on, and kind of is like one of those things. I remember one time we were playing a game, we had like a rookie party that night, and whatever, Brent's like knows about it, and it's like go time. So we get it all set up before the game. We order all the alcohol to the billet's house, like everything's all set up. And then, but I remember Brent saying, he's like, if you guys play that bad, like we can take this away. Like, and I'm like, oh, we go out there, we might have played the worst game of our like, of all time. Like we got, so then he's like, it's off. And then we're like, did no way. So we got it all set up. Like everyone's invited. Like, I don't know what to do. So we go up to our captain, Reese Johnson at the time. We're like, you got to go talk to him. Like, you got to tell him, like, we need to have this party. So we're like, we go upstairs. We're like standing outside of his office room. We're like Johnny goes in there. Hey, Brent, like everyone in the room. We're like, oh boy. And he absolutely just shreds us all. We end up having the party, but we got to be there at like 6 a.m.
Oh,
and we are pushing nets down the ice, crawling across the ice, no sleep, like just like, I remember I got like my pinkies, like I got stitches in my pinky the game before. I'm crawling across the ice. I'm like just in the trenches down there, and then whatever, got out of it. But
how do you lay an egg knowing that you have rookie party at night, and then especially after he tells you guys, you know, we could take this away? Like, how the fuck do you lay an egg after that?
I don't know. I mean, I guess we just thinking about the people we invited, I guess. I don't know.
Well, we had rookie party with the Penguins in New York City one night, and we were playing the Rangers at 1:00. So, like, you know, right? You expect to go balls to the wall, and we lost 8-1, and that song, hey, and then Terrian just lined everyone up, and he's like meeting. It was one-on-one meetings, every guy on the team, basically.
Get the fuck out of here.
I remember a guy walked out early, and he's like, at least I got to go first. See you, boys, because I was one of the last few guys. It was 2 hours after the game ended, dude. I'm still waiting for my pee-pee whacking, and I was -4 or something. -3.
No!
Oh, even worse.
But you can have tough games when you know rookie party's coming. I think Hags is right. You're just thinking about it.
Yeah.
What does Manhattan have in store for us?
yeah.
So you brought up you know, WHL draft, and there'd be other things you battled through, and I guess you kind of mentioned it before in Buffalo, and they didn't sign you, and it must have been something where after Sutter tells you, I'm going to find you a center, but like that year that you had the next season was so dominant. It was like 50 points more than the next teammate. So that summer, how driven were you training and skating to be like, fuck that, like fuck the Sabres, I'm going to prove them wrong?
Yeah, how much time at the skate park doing ollies?
So
getting ready
like the frustrating part was like, I remember Buffalo, I mean, the GMs did change, so that made be a little bit into it, obviously. And I know they still do it with some guys, but I remember them asking me to come down in the summer. And like, we all know what Buffalo's all about. I'm a young kid. I'm like, the summer's kind of my time to hang with family and friends, especially as like a 17-year-old. You're just finished your first year in the Dob and stuff like that. So whatever. I'm like, no, I'm going to go over to Buffalo. I spent an entire summer there. And I'm like the only person there, like, as like a young guy, basically. It felt like at times, and like it was tough for me mentally. Like it wasn't easy, but I wanted to. I think
you
that
made
I thought
the right
that was
decision.
The
You know, a team asks you to come. What are you going to say? And then you get kind of slapped in the face.
Yeah, there's one thing getting drafted, but the next thing signing that contract. I think that's a big thing. It doesn't matter where you get drafted. You can be a first rounder. You see many of those guys not sign contracts, but so I go down there, spend some time there, and then the next year I think I might have spent another month after development camp or something like that. And then kind of the end of the year happens. And my first year getting drafted, I had a pretty good year. I mean, I got drafted. I think I had like 70 some points. So I had a decent year after the year I got drafted. And the next year I got hurt, but I mean, I had a fine year, I think. And then they called me after the year and they just said that my agent called me and said they weren't going to sign me. And I was just like, whatever, I guess. I mean, what am I going to do? I've been here before. So I just went home, did kind of the same thing. But at the same time, I knew, like, I came into the season as a 20-year-old year. I had a good summer and I was just kind of like, well, like, I need to like have another plan because this is my 20-year-old year. So I'm like, I'll sign up for school like at Christmas. I'll give myself till Christmas. If not, I need to sign up for school because I need to. Like, I wasn't the smartest guy in school, so I needed to upgrade to actually find myself a good job and something after to go to school and figure something out.
You're thinking at one point, like, hockey, I guess hockey could be done. Like, it just happened so quick, right? And naturally it's going through your mind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was the tough part. I think that was the hardest part because I didn't want it to be done. I knew it was my 20-year-old year. I love hockey, but at the same time, it's the reality of life. Like, sometimes hockey isn't going to be forever. So I signed up for school and then ended up signing like 10, 15 games in, I think, with Chicago. I remember, I can't remember who it was, came down to Red Deer to watch me. And I'm like, oh, just another person talking to me saying they're interested, whatever. And then it was like 7 games in the season. Then Stan Bowman was there. And I was like, oh, maybe they are serious.
Okay.
And then the next day he offered me a contract. And then I was just like, sure.
At that time, did you get the max? Like, because the max deals weren't even that
max
crazy.
Everything. So,
that's unreal.
Yeah.
And at the time in Buffalo, was there a change in management? Like what?
Yeah, Tim Murray was there when I got drafted, and I can't remember.
Botterill?
Yeah, Botterill was the next guy there.
So that's the thing. It wasn't maybe not his draft pick, so they wanted to move on, bring in their own guys, which is kind of the kick in the dick for you. But all things worked out for a reason. Now, when you ended up going and turning pro and going to Rockford, what was your experience like there? I mean, you the first year I noticed that you didn't really play much, but the next year you basically had almost a full season there, right?
Yeah, well, I played 1 year in or just the COVID year. Like I played, I went to Rockford, played. I remember at the start of the year we had a lot of young guys too, and like overwhelmed with players, and we needed guys in and out of the lineup. So when I got there, I remember the coach pulling us in and just kind of like, hey, like, this is the reality of the situation. Tons of young guys. We're going to be just swapping guys around.
No matter how you play, kind of.
No matter how you play. Like, it was just kind of that situation. I'm like, oh boy, one of these years. Like, so I play game 1. I think the next game it's my turn to come out. I come out. And then after that, I never came out. I ended up scoring like 20 goals. And then COVID. And then I got called up. And then I played against San Jose, my first NHL game that season, and the next day COVID hit, so the season shut down.
Oh.
And then I went over to Switzerland that summer or winter during COVID till the season started.
When you went over to Switzerland, like, because COVID
after
hit
the
March
bubble.
20, the next year?
Yeah, after the bubble, when that summer where we didn't start till when, I don't know, January maybe?
It was different. What was that? Because I remember watching the Cup final, it was like, wasn't it August?
Yeah, something like that. And then we never played again till January or something. Camp was like January 2nd. So I was sitting at home and obviously couldn't go anywhere. And my agent was like,
2 weeks, wear a mask, stop the spread. Remember 2 weeks, stop the spread?
Yeah.
So standard.
So
You're an idiot.
Well, how was Switzerland?
it was good. I mean, I went over there. I played in the second league. I had fun. I knew I had to, like, I was just so bored at home. My agent's like, you want to go play? He's like, it's in the second league. I'm like, sure. I'm like, might as well get out of here. So I just went over there, played for like a month and a half, came back, and then I was on the taxi squad, and then for 2 games, and then I went in for the third game, I think against Florida, and I've never been out since.
As a big, like, NHL fan growing up, but you come into that room and how you've gotten to the NHL is so interesting. And then Patrick Kane sitting there, like, had to be one of your kind of idols growing up. Was it cool getting to know him, play with him? What kind of guy was he to you and all that?
Yeah, he's I still text him to this day. I mess with him all the time, but him, Taser, all those guys were incredible. I kind of take my time, but once I get out of my comfort zone, I'm out of my comfort zone, and then I just let it rip from there. But he's obviously an idol and one of those guys, and then obviously being able to play with him for a lot of the season, and him being a part of why I was on PP1. I know that for a fact, and stuff like that. And he was always good to me. Taser was incredible, obviously, as well. And just a chance to play with those guys, and then obviously getting traded, it's getting to play with some more superstars.
So Kane had gone into the coach and been like, I want him on the power play with us?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I remember him him saying
that's pretty
that
sick.
At one point. Yeah, it was a pretty cool moment. I think you appreciate that the most. I think especially a guys that wants you out there, whether it was for me to probably get the puck back. Other than that, not too much, but I knew that was my job. So I knew if I could get the puck back and get it to him, I'm going to get a little bit more ice time.
Another guy, like, because you're not with Chicago, obviously, now, and it's looking like a kind of Kunitz for Whitney trade, a horrible one the Blackhawks made. And then Dylan Strom's not there either, and he's playing phenomenal in Washington. Like, when you were there with him, we were like, holy shit, like, almost surprised that he wasn't lighting it up there as he is now.
Yeah, a little bit. Obviously, Stromer, he's one of those guys that has the potential. He has so much skill, his vision. I mean, we all know what he has, but yeah, it was a little surprising. I know he struggled a little bit in a sense of, like, maybe he was playing with Kaner, and then when he wasn't, it was tough for him, and maybe it was his confidence a little bit. But I knew Stromer was always going to find his way, and maybe it wasn't in Chicago. And if you look at that Chicago team now, you bring all those players back, we're probably one heck of a team. I think you got Kaner, DeBrincat, Stromer, myself. You can go down the line. We're probably a pretty good hockey team. It just didn't work out at that time, and Chicago maybe have been in that time. New GM wanted to start over and start his own franchise, and you can respect that. And but lucky enough, Stromer's lighting it up over there, and I'm happy for him. He found his way, and he found a team he really fits in.
I think it was inevitable they were heading for a rebuild. And like you said, they probably just wanted a clean slate and ended up getting rid of guys for cents on the dollar. And you find your way in Tampa Bay, and they were notorious for making great moves with guys who were still under very fair deals. I think you were making $1.5 million at the time. So when you end up getting moved over to Tampa Bay, and you talk about going from one locker room with legends to another locker room with current legends like Stammer, Kucherov, Vazzy, like even Cooper as a head coach, like at first, like, is it a little overwhelming? Are you a little nervous going into a locker room right now? And how did you get acclimated right away?
Yeah, I think like I said, I never really went to all these like Hockey Canada or like all those things growing up. So I never really was like out there. And hockey's a pretty small world. Usually, like, you get traded to a team, you probably know one guy. I didn't know a single soul. Like, I didn't know one guy, never talked to one guy. I knew the guy that they also traded for like 2 days later, Paulie, and I just met him at World Championships for the first time. So yeah, it was intimidating, especially they're coming off back-to-back cups. I mean, you don't want to step on anyone's toes. You don't, like, these guys got it going on. Whatever they got going on, you just got to try and put one foot in front of the other and try and follow along. And those guys were incredible at it. And I look back at that team and I couldn't imagine. I got to meet some of the other guys that were on the winning teams as well, but like it was incredible, that locker room. I mean, the guys in that room and the culture in that room, and like just the guys were incredible. And you could just tell, like, walking in that room and how close everyone was, and team parties we're having, and like just absurd. And it was like, it was inevitable that they were winning 2 cups and going for a third.
When you got to the finals, it was evident, right? Like two in a row, and then you guys were gassed, and Colorado was so ready. It would have been such a sick series had Tampa not won the previous 1 or 2 just based on energy. But it must have been tough to kind of get into that series and just see, like, fuck, like we almost have nothing left in the tank right now.
Yeah. It was, I mean,
obviously you're not thinking that way, but at the end you look back, it's like, dude, it wasn't the same.
Yeah. Like, you have those guys, especially the short seasons with their breaks were like, I don't even know if they had like more than a month at some points. Like, they're probably all staying in Tampa, never really got that time. And then you lose Pointer in the first round. Like, that guy was unstoppable in the playoffs. He's like scored so many big goals. So you always put that back in your head. If you have Pointer, that's just another. He's a superstar in this league. He's a 50 goal scorer. He's like, this guy's going to go down as one of the best Canadian players to play the game, and you don't have him in your lineup, and we're still able to do that. It was pretty impressive, to be honest. Especially the one round that sticks out to me is going down 2-0 to the Rangers, and being able to come back and win 4 straight after these guys just went through 2 cups long, like exhausted. Like, we could have kicked the bucket right there and said, what a run, you know. But the gamers they had on the team was incredible.
Is it true? This could be, but like, I've heard Point is the most old school like guy. Like, somebody said he had like a flip phone or something. Like, I don't know what to believe or not. But is he a simple man?
I heard he only drinks bourbon or something.
Is as simple as it gets. Like, just give him a rum and Coke and some Crocs, and he'll be just fine. I mean, this guy he's one of the best guys I know. I mean, you have a couple drinks with him, like, he's one of a kind. But like you said, he's as simple as it gets. He's just shows
like,
up.
he
does
ain't
his
scrolling
job.
Twitter and all this shit.
No,
right?
no. I don't even know I don't think he has any of it, to be honest.
What's he into? Like, is he a hunter? Like, you say simple.
Skateboarding.
I don't know.
That's why they're such good
That's a
buddies.
good question, to be honest. He, like, I don't know what, he just loves his family. He's a huge family guy. And, you can respect that as much as you want, but yeah, he's just simple. He does it old school, I guess. Like, shows up, does his job, and does it incredibly. I mean,
what's Cooch like?
He's good. It's honestly comedy that some of the like, just what you see on the internet and stuff. But Cooch is an incredible guy, especially if you're close with him and stuff like that. He's not what the internet portrays him to be, but
what does the internet portray him to be? Other than
just
a
like
lethal assassin?
after the like the All-Star game and stuff like that, like, just always grumpy. Like, he's not always grumpy at all, actually, but it's just it's just funny how they portray it. But yeah, he's a great guy, and he'll hang with the boys and have a couple drinks with the boys for sure too.
Who were you playing the other night where he just took it end to end and threw that behind the back, no look dish? This guy is so insane to watch. He's the silkiest, like, but he plays like a bastard too. He's got the mean streak, but that assist, I mean, I guess you see it in practice. It's just like, not shocking to me.
Yeah, he's one guy that is just like, it's incredible. I mean, like, especially that pass, but him, and like, I skated with him a little bit in the summer when I came back, and it's just repetition after repetition. I mean, it's incredible. And the craziest thing to me is he's a guy that was like playing on the 4th line, like, when he first came in the league. Like, well, maybe if there's no injury, he might not get an opportunity. Like, that was the situation he is, and to turn into be one of the, if not the best player in the NHL, and like, is incredible to me. Like, you see all these guys, obviously first overall picks, like, what do you expect a lot, but him, like, maybe on his way out, if maybe there isn't an injury or maybe not an opportunity, and he comes in, he's the best, like, putting up 144 points is like incredible.
You said practice repetitions. What do you mean by that? Like, he's just doing these like skill drills over and over to to master all this stuff?
Yeah,
Or
it's
you just
kind of
need
like when we go out, like when I skated in with the summer, we'd skate whatever 5 times a week for 2 hours. I bet you we did that 5 times a week. We probably did like the same drills pretty much all week.
He's just into mastering it.
what type of drills we talking here? Are you allowed to say? I noticed that he's one of the best guys at pulling pucks off the wall. Like if it gets rimmed around, it's like it'll go from his backhand to his forehand. He's ready to make a play before you can even react.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely one you do regularly, like every single day, picking pucks off the wall. That's definitely. But I mean that's I think that's one of the most important skills. I mean, if you watch Cooch and what he does and the like picking those pucks off of the wall, I mean you may have seen it, like the backhand cross seam to Stammer backdoor off of the wall is like absurd. Like
it looks so easy too, but it's so hard.
It's so hard. Then he slows the game down and makes it look so easy. It's like I'm just like, when I watch it, I'm like, and everyone's like, oh, he didn't mean. I'm like, no, he meant to do that. Like that's just like he does it all the time. Incredible.
I don't know if Coop is currently the longest tenured head coach, or at least obviously one of them. Like it's so hard year over year to come in and like have like a new message to get the guys fired up. I don't know exactly what the expectations were on the outside coming in this season for you guys with, no Stamkos. I think a lot of people were uncertain. Like, what's his message like in camp? And like, what does he say to the guys to get you guys fired up again? And because obviously early on it's worked and you guys have been off to a great start considering all the moves you guys made.
Yeah, I think this year's in camp, it's a little bit of it's not the same anymore. I think that was a message, like we need to build something new here. Not necessarily the culture, because I think Tampa has that culture that Coop brings in, and especially with Hetty still being here and all that. I mean, the culture they had got them Stanley Cup, so that's not going to change. But just a little bit of maybe the scenery, what the dressing room looks like, what other things look like, maybe switch something like that up or something like that. Just a change of everything, because it's not the same anymore. It's different. We need to, as a team in here, but this year was exciting. Obviously, losing Stammer. I mean, it's a business. There's not much I can say on that. That's not my decision. But
you don't go into Brisebois' office and say, "Fuck you for trading my buddy." The fuck you doing?
Yeah, exactly. But
he's like, "You took some of the money, bitch."
yeah, exactly.
Oh, well, in that case, have a good day.
Hey, how about I like watching you guys play. It's like a fun team, and I mentioned Kucherov, but they trade Sergachev, JJ Moser, 2nd round pick, and then this mutant Geeky. This guy, is that a tinted visor? I think maybe a white neck guard. Like this mutant out there, but I like his game. I like how he plays. It looks like he's got some meanness to him, but pretty skilled overall.
Yeah, he's going to be one heck of a player. I mean, he's nice. Like you said, he's a mutant. He's massive. He's humongous. It's tinted visor. This guy's shin pads are longer than my leg, man. Like this guy's. He's going to be a heck of a player. I mean, obviously he's up playing with me and Tony right now, and he's doing some special things, and the kid just wants to learn, and that's all you can appreciate. And he's doing some sick things out there too.
We were talking to an ex-teammate of yours, and he said, "Oh, you got to ask him about when we almost dummied somebody on the golf course." So I don't know where this goes. It was
who was it?
It was Entwistle. He told Pasha, "Oh my God, ask him about the time we almost scrapped the guy on the golf course in the minors."
Oh, I mean, this wasn't me, but this was actually kind of wild story. But I was there, but we hit our golf ball, and we're playing like tees, like the golf course is as tight as it gets. So like 1's this way, 2's this way, 3's that way, blah 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 blah. And we hit our balls, and then. I guess it may be one sliced almost rolled up to this guy. It was kind of minor. This guy tees one up and fires it at us, like right across from us.
Could have killed someone.
Could have killed someone, like toast. So at the time, I think it was Tompkins. He walks over there. We all just walk over there. I mean, I'm just like a little guy. I'm not doing anything. But Tomer's like snapping, like that's not okay. And I'm like, yeah, that's not okay. So I'm heel toe over there too. I got a couple boys behind me, so I'm going too. And then, this guy was just like panicking, and he pulled out his club, and like, I think he might have like swiped at someone. We were like, I'm like, all right, I'm going to go look for my ball. TaylorMade 4 over there.
This should have been on like, what is that Instagram account? Like Golf Gods or something, where the other day I saw a guy just baseball bat someone in the head with his driver.
No.
Yeah, dude. Yes.
Yeah. There's some pretty absurd things on there too. Yeah.
And any other funny stories from guys on the team? Like Vasilevsky seems like an interesting guy. Obviously, last year didn't go as planned, but he looks fully healthy, ready to go, kicking like he has been in the past.
Yeah, Vassy's Vassy. I mean, he's always dialed in on game days. He's focused. I mean, with Vassy behind you, you always got a chance, and that's what this team believes, and that's why we continue to go for it every single year.
I love it.
Well, dude, thank you so much for joining. It's been cool to watch the player you've turned into, man. And congrats on that contract, life-changing money, and you deserve it. It's been a long road. So good luck the rest of the way, and we appreciate it. Now we know you play golf, sandbagger action. We're just trying to line these up.
I'm in.
Right. Love it.
All right, boys.
Before we go any farther, I got to talk to you about DraftKings. The quest for the Stanley Cup has begun. The puck has dropped on the 24-25 season, and you can get in on all the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. It's super easy for first-timers to get started. Try betting on something simple like picking a team to win. Go to DraftKings Sportsbook app, select your team, and place your first bet. And if you're new to DraftKings, listen up right now. This is important. New customers bet $5 to get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code Chiclets, CHICLETS. That is code Chiclets for new customers to get $200 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. Only at DraftKings. The crown is yours. Thank you very much to Brandon Hagel. Having a hell of a start to the season. We'll see what this entire year has in store for the Lightning. Fun team to watch. But Biz, over in Finland, there was two very special games for a lot of Finnish guys that were on the Florida Panthers and the Dallas Stars. Florida owned Dallas over there. I mean, two big wins. Somehow,
a potential Stanley Cup Finals.
I agree with you on that. I agree. The way the Panthers look, it's like, oh my God, I think we talked about them last week, but they're just doing this again. I don't know if I had any clue how good Sam Reinhart was. Like, it's even like last year, he's unreal. Game-winning goal, Cup final, 58 goals, 57 goals. But to see him continue to just do this again this year, it's been incredible to watch. And I know you know him pretty well, but did you ever see this much of an offensive power out of his game?
Yeah, I thought he was pretty well-rounded in Buffalo. I think being surrounded with better players has helped them develop. I also think that, Paul Maurice has obviously had a lot of confidence in him. I think he complimented him last year, saying he's the second smartest hockey player he's ever coached. And this is with a guy that has Barkov on his team, for fuck's sake.
It wasn't first?
I thought that he said Ron Francis was the smartest. That was my interpretation from it. Okay. Or, hey, put them in the same category. High praise for Sammy Reinhart. Obviously, he's got the lineage, right? His old man played, I think, over 700 games in the NHL. His brother was also a first-round draft pick. So he's just been hockey his whole life. But I think that his goal scoring and his offensive abilities have probably overshadowed how good he is defensively and responsible as far as a 200-foot game. And he could take punishment. Normally not the guy delivering bone-crunching hits, but just so good along the wall and taking punishment and making the necessary plays. Last year, I talked about it when Darryl Belfry did the breakdown of how good he is coming out of that left corner as a right shot and making those plays and dipping around guys and creating separation one-on-one. And even this year when Barkov went down, his point production really didn't get phased that much. So, some people might have said, oh yeah, well, look who he's playing with, but I don't think it matters, man. He's just continued to evolve. Took kind of being shunned out of Buffalo. I remember media was getting hard at him. I remember that riff he got into one of the reporters about a back check, and things just kind of got to a place where he needed a new change of scenery. And ever since getting to Florida, man, it's been heaven sent at the way that he's been able to play and really the way that he's fit in with that organization. So all the way to going over to Finland and getting the golden bucket. I think that
golden bucket So the golden bucket was put in Barkov's stall, and he said, no, Reinhart should have it right now. We need Merles. Merles will correct us on this week's game notes. Check them out Friday. I thought Switzerland is the league where I believe you wear a gold helmet or a different helmet if you're the leading scorer of the team. It's either the league or the team. In Finland, as far as I know, the gold helmet is given to the MVP of the league at the end of the season.
So my understanding is in Finland is the leading scorer of the whole entire league wears the gold helmet, where like you're saying in Switzerland, it's just the individual on the team who's leading the team. And also in Finland, the golden bucket is sponsored by a gambling company. It's kind of like a monopoly. I think it's like the only gambling company or operation in all of Finland that everybody has to go through. But the person who has the gold bucket the longest over the course of the entire season gets paid out a $10K bonus from the gambling company. So that's kind of a nice little treat for the top scorer who sustained it for the longest period of time. So that's kind of the way that they operate overseas, where I think that there are different leagues who do the golden bucket thing, where those are just the discrepancies in which and how they end up rolling them out. So pretty cool thing.
Yeah, it's really cool. Maybe in Switzerland it is the leading scorer of the league is the one wearing a special helmet. I don't know why I'm thinking like it has like flames on it or something. G, look this up. Could have just created this in my mind.
Yeah, it's an Ed Hardy helmet.
It's
Ed Hardy. What was the other one? Affliction?
Affliction?
Yeah, Affliction Bucky.
I actually figured we would. It reminds me, like talking about the golden bucket. The only other time we've ever said the term golden bucket was when you were showing me pictures on Uriah, and you said, "Look at this girl; she's got the golden bucket." Now it's like back to real hockey. So I kind of forgot about that over in Finland, and you saying that reminded me. I've heard him say golden bucket
golden
before.
Shower. You're thinking of a golden shower.
Well, what was cool about this series, though, was it kind of goes back to talking to the older European guys. Like Sundin said this and Holik, and they never got to watch NHL games. They never got to see what was going on. And it's changed so much now with the internet and all these kids. And even when I was playing over in Russia, we'd watch the highlights of every NHL game the morning of practice that had happened the night prior. And so it's just kids dream all over the world that are playing hockey of playing in the NHL now. So these kids in Helsinki and all over Finland have looked at Barkov and just, he's been their idol. I mean, I'm guessing, and there's a bunch of great Finnish players, but Barkov raising the cup last year and how good he is on both sides of the puck, which Finns take pride in. He comes over there and he gets a goal and 3 assists in the first game on Friday, and they win 6-4. It's like, talk about a dream. And I remember coming back and playing the Bruins, and no matter what team I was on, it was the best. Like, you had family and friends in the building, and I had played college games there. I'd grown up going to games. It's like I'm playing in an NHL game in my hometown, home city. And for a European to get to go home and do it and then light it up the way he did in the first game, like that, the night out that they must have had after the game Saturday.
Oh, man.
I mean,
kind of goes back to last year when Nylander did it in Sweden.
Yes.
When I think he had the OT winner over there.
Yes.
I would imagine. Yeah, I imagine he had a couple golden showers after that one. I think with the two teams, there was 7 total players from Finland. I got the list here: Heiskanen, Lundell, Barkov, Hintz, Mikkola, Lindell. So we got a Lundell and a Lindell, and then Eetu Listarainen. So those were all the players that were born in Finland that got to go back home and play.
And the Panthers, like with Lundell and Lusterainen, it's just like the fact they have those two guys, like they're just so deep up front. I'm talking about forwards on Ottawa, the forwards on Florida. It's insane. Like, and then they get Evan Rodriguez, who's just nasty there. It's just it's a great team, and I think to see them in the finals would not shock one person.
I just like how they sent over like 2 good teams rather than sending over. I think it was the Finnish president or prime minister, not sure what they have over there. He said it was one of the best experiences that they've had in the country in a long time. You can get the exact quote from G. He was talking about it on the outline call, but just all in all, a good representation from the league going over there and making a splash.
He called it their Super Bowl biz.
Ooh, fuck you, Goodell. It's ours now.
They should have played it on a Sunday.
Should have played. Yeah, that's what they should have done.
Should have played it on a
what else
Sunday.
was speaking of depth and forwards, how about the list of the forward group for the Colorado Avalanche that are banged up right now?
I don't know if I ever remember seeing this many on one team. Like, is it 6 of their top 9 forwards are out injured?
Yeah.
I mean, the luck. I mean, you saw the other night. It was Ivan, and that Nikolai Kovalenko both playing, I think, on the first line, or one was on the first, one was on the second. Like, they've played like 30 games combined, I think, in their career. And they're forced right now, if you go through the list, Landeskog, obviously, Nichushkin, obviously, Miles Wood's hurt, Tucker Pullman's hurt, Jonathan Drouin's hurt, Ross Colton goes out, Arturi Lekkonen's day-to-day. The Ross Colton one sucked because what a start he had.
Yeah, he gets bumped up to that top line. He had great chemistry, probably a guy who's never really gotten to play at that situation in the NHL, and then boom, he goes down. So they got to get out the voodoo doll, or they got to get some type of exorcism in that locker room to rid them of the bad luck, because that is just a catastrophic start to the season with all the injuries that have mounted. But they did get good news that Valeri Nichushkin is not only skating, but he's anticipated to be in the lineup on November 15th. So talk about a huge boost to their power play, their goal scoring, the sheer size and physicality that he brings. So that, to me, with that net front presence, is just a huge boost to take a little bit of pressure off the rest of those guys playing through what they got going on right now.
Last chance saloon. And you really root for the guy. Don't know him, never met him, but you just hope you can figure out, what's been going on in your life and put a rein on it, because if something happens again, I don't think you ever see him play in the NHL. So you're rooting for that storyline to come through and him be that dominant player everyone's seen him be, and be good off the ice. And I think the bright side for the Avalanche is what Cale Makar is doing right now is incredible. He's the first defenseman since Bobby Orr, and I believe they're the only two to ever lead the league in scoring in November. Right now, he's tied for the lead with Kaprizov, but I think 100 points is very, very realistic. I mean, at this point, to get off to the start the way he has, and to just know how many opportunities he's going to have on power plays, it's crazy to think that he could get 110 points. I mean, thank God McKinnon, Rantanen, and him are healthy, because if you lose one of those guys, you're like, now we're really fucked. So they got to try to just stay with their heads barely above water till they get everyone back, and then you could see him possibly go on a run.
Ultimate superstar. I want to say 4 games into the season, they ended up getting shelled, and he had a tough night. And he said, "I think this team would have been better off without me in the lineup." Well, that's never to be said again about Cale Makar and what he does for the Colorado Avalanche. Like off of that and that accountability, having the stretch of games and he's had and the production. And we're talking about a guy here who, if he gets to 100 points, like, he's still one of the better defenders in the league too. The way that he closes on guys, stick on puck, he cycle bus. Like, there's nothing defensively that he's not doing that the top guys defensively are doing either. So it's remarkable, generational talent. And as you said, if there's one team that could battle through this and keep their team afloat to get themselves in a playoff spot, it's with the help of that 3-headed monster that you just mentioned. So I don't know what else you had listed on that outline.
Well,
there,
we were
Whitty.
just, Colorado's battling injuries. Couple on other injury tidbit news, brutal news for the Blues. Broberg gets hurt. So they said 4 to 6 weeks, but the guy had started the season on fire. He's playing over 20 minutes. He's skating, looking like that player we saw in the Cup final, and boom, gets hit with the injury. So that sucks, and you hope he's able to come back quick. And then for my Oilers, McDavid went down right after we recorded. Very, very scary. It didn't look bad in Columbus, but you could tell like something, the ankle went into the boards. They said 2 to 3 weeks, and I think right at around 2.5 weeks, it would have been the Leafs on Saturday, November 16th, Hockey Night in Canada.
I'm doing that game, Hockey Night in Canada.
Well, guess what, buddy? Guess what? He'll be back then because he skated today.
Yeah, I saw that.
He's fast, and he's ready, and he's already talking about Vancouver Saturday night, November 9th, this upcoming Saturday. So to even think about him being back that early, I guess that would be just about 2 weeks, maybe a day over 2 weeks. Now, Edmonton, have won the 2 games without him. Leon, he's doing that Leon thing where McDavid's out, he just completely dominates. And many people reminded me on Twitter, and I got to live through it, Evgeny Malkin in Pittsburgh when Crosby was injured. And his entire career, when Sid's been out, Gino elevates. And part of that is, and they're very similar. Like, I know they don't have the Stanley Cups, but McDavid and Crosby and Draisaitl and Malkin, it kind of goes hand in hand where Hyman talked about how many teams are lucky enough to have a guy like McDavid go down and you have another top 5 player in the NHL to step up. And I think these guys, they thrive on it. All right, it's my time. My turn doesn't sound right. It's more like, no, I got to pick this
There's
team up.
There's no delegating. It's I'm the horse. I got to take over. There's no one else to look at other than myself in the mirror. Let's fucking put the big boy pants on and let's go, baby. And I couldn't agree more with that comparison. Every time Crosby went down, Malcolm would find a way to elevate his game. Sid said it after the game when they both set those milestones. He said every time I think that this guy might not have another gear, he finds one. And we're seeing Draisaitl in Draisaitl mode right now. He's bending those knees a little bit now, isn't he, Whitty boy?
Yeah, a big guy that takes a little longer, according to you and G, to get going. Hyman's
do you not
now
agree with that philosophy, or do you?
I don't agree with it because of what these guys are doing in the summer, or maybe it happens, but I don't know why it would happen because these guys are coming into camp in the best shape of their lives, and to get going in games as a bigger guy. Are you saying just like physically, like?
I think that the overall game slows down a little bit more, where like a little bit less is called, so there is a little bit more of that hooking and clawing and grabbing and setting these little picks that are not only.
You think
not
less penalties are called at the beginning of the year?
No, moving towards like the middle and end.
Okay.
And I just think overall, like from the fatigue of the season, like the wheels that some of these guys have, they slow down a little bit and they come back down to reality. That's my theory. Maybe there's some analytics on how they track these guys' speed throughout the course of the season where I get backed up on that. Maybe other people who are listening think I'm a fucking moron.
Like
there's probably a lot of people
could be
who do.
looking into this for you now.
He is going to. He's going to. That's my guy.
Well, Edmonton, Hyman's going now, and this pod, Colson's solid. And I think Canucks fans were always, and I get it, disappointed, like top high pick in the first round. Like you never got that offense out of him, but the Oilers got him for a 4th rounder. And if he's serviceable and he had a good fight this season already, that's a nice move. You don't need him to be the 10th overall pick that the Canucks needed. You just need him to be a solid 3rd, maybe 2nd line, possibly 4th line guy. And for a 4th round pick, that looks nice right now. So things are coming together for Edmonton. Just as I said they would.
You better hope my theory's right, because they lost all their speed and youth in this offseason, and now they're all old and moldy.
I think Arvidsson's pretty quick. I think Skinner is great. I don't think Skinner's like lack of speed is an issue or anything. I think McDavid's still the fastest player in the world. I think that they're going to get Kane back healthy. I think that this team is exactly where they need to be, and I have no worries. And to see McDavid go down while I almost had a heart attack, to then see 2 to 3 weeks and then already see him skating today in the pregame skate.
He's getting the blood spinning done. He's getting the placenta.
I was thinking that.
He's got the placenta being injected into his ankle. He's fine. He's got all the world-class doctors on his side.
Placenta in the ankle.
The blood spinning.
Well, I guess we could now throw it over to a former Edmonton Oilers legend, Kevin Lowe. A guy who played forever there and won 6 Stanley Cups, 5 in Edmonton and 1 in New York. So we want to thank him. This is back from June, but Kevin Lowe right now. Before we go any further, guys, I need to tell you about Jack Pocket. If you're feeling lucky right now, you need to get involved with Jack Pocket, America's #1 lottery app. With Jack Pocket, you can order Powerball and Mega Millions tickets right to your phone. They even have official state lottery games. Every day, there are millions up for grabs right on your phone. New customers can get a free lottery ticket using code PUCK. That's code PUCK for a free Powerball or Mega Millions ticket. Don't wait. Download Jack Pocket now for your chance to win big. Good luck.
Okay, it's time for our next guest. This defenseman was taken 21st overall by the Oilers at the 1979 draft. He spent his first 13 NHL seasons here at Edmonton, winning 5 Stanley Cups, His next 4 seasons were with the Rangers, where he added a 6th Stanley Cup, the franchise's first in 54 years. He returned to Edmonton to finish off his 19-season, 1,468-game NHL career and was inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame in 2020. It's a pleasure to welcome to the Spittin Chiclets podcast, Kevin Lowe. How's it going, Kev?
It's going great. Great to be here. I'm wondering how come it took you guys so long to have me on here.
I think that we just had to get up to Edmonton. We needed to be in person. It's that much better in person. But also the other things already didn't include most playoff and regular season games combined in the history of the Oilers and the Oilers' first draft pick ever. Is that true? Wild. So you're an Oilers lifer. Ended up playing, becoming GM, and it's just been amazing for you to probably see the growth in the city and the team over the years.
It sure has. You know, when I came here in '79, Edmonton was 400,000 people. You know, it's 1.2 million now, triple the size. And I didn't even expect I was going to make the team. I was 3 days into training camp, and a guy by the name of Wayne Gretzky skated up beside me and said, hey, how about you and I getting a place together? Which today you'd think is kind of weird, but I said, well, I don't even know if I'm going to make the team. He said, don't worry, you're going to make the team. And, you know, like...
You're on the team.
The rest is kind of history, you know. I mean, you guys know how matter-of-fact Wayne is. Not that it gave me any additional confidence, but it sure was a good pat in the back for a player coming to his first training camp.
Had you heard all about him? Like, I think, what are you, a couple years older, maybe 1 or 2, but you'd heard about him even when you were younger in your teens?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, he's, I think, 18 months younger than I am. So I think when he was 12 years old, 11 years old, there was a massive story on him across the country and in one of the major magazines and stuff. And, you know, that's just, seeing that, it was hard to believe that, who is this kid?
Yeah.
And then I played junior in Quebec City with the Ramparts, and Wayne was playing in the World Hockey Association for the Oilers. So I saw a lot. I saw him play and thinking, oh my goodness, like, hard to believe that someone that young could do what he's doing. And then we ended up rooming together for a couple of years in the early, when we first started, and became good friends in each other's weddings. And and then probably my favorite Wayne story, and I can tell a million of them, was when he phoned me to help me, to ask me to assist him to run Team Canada for the 2002 Olympics in Salt Lake. And we hadn't been together for, probably 8 or 9 years. We still talked on the phone, but to get that call to, for that, such an important mission was, that's probably my favorite story.
You're like, I'll put the toonie in the middle of the ice.
Yeah.
I got you, Wayne. I got you.
Well, I was the guy that got I actually, my part of that story was the I think everyone knows it was an ice maker from Edmonton that was hired by the Salt Lake City Olympic Committee to run the ice.
Because the ice was so good here. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Yep. Dan Craig and the logo for Salt Lake. This is the reason why the Loonies were there. Right? The logo for Salt Lake was kind of a weird logo, but they needed somewhere for the refs to pinpoint where to drop the puck. So they said, just like paint something there. And so that's where he came up with the idea. Well, I'm going to paint something, but I'm going to put the Loonies in. But he put a loonie and a dime and a nickel. So after we won the gold medal game, I was standing on the bench with my wife and we're all celebrating. And this guy comes up to me with a water bottle and he goes, "Let's go get the loonie." And I'm like, "Oh, great." I said, "You got an ice pick?" And he goes, No, I got hot water in here. But he wanted me to go out there as protection in case someone saw him, right? And I said, "Yeah, let's go." And so he dug it out and I had it and I brought it to the bench and I gave it to Wayne, and that's my part of the famous Looney story.
And you mentioned playing for the Quebec Ramparts. I actually didn't know. I knew you when I was on the Oilers and you worked for the Oilers. I didn't know you were French or grew up in a French community. But was any of your family speaking French? Like
La Chute,
yeah,
La Chute.
Yeah,
that's how I would describe my play here. La Chute. He's La Chute.
La Chute, he scores. Our family was English, but our community was like 50-50 French-English. Most of the kids I played sports with, baseball, hockey, they're mostly French. So I had a pretty good, feel with French. But when I went to Quebec City and played my junior for 3 years, I lived with a French family that didn't speak any English at all. So that's where really I became more fluent.
Was your dad the person who got you into the game? Like when you're younger, or was it just kids in the community? Everyone's playing hockey all winter.
Like, what was your kind of beginning of hockey? Who got you into it?
Yeah, our family, Whit, was pretty, fairly, we weren't a really wealthy family, but we were upper middle class. My dad and his brothers had a big business, a dairy business, and not a farm, but they manufactured milk and ice cream, and very involved in a city of about 12,000, sponsoring sports, baseball, hockey, and including the first ever artificial ice that they put on the grounds of their business. So at 3 years old, my dad would bring me to work, throw me on the ice, and send someone out to get me off the ice. So I was
Figure it out, kid.
Yeah, there's 32 in my generation. I'm the third youngest. All the boys played hockey. All the girls skied. So I grew up in a hockey environment. Yeah.
It says in Quebec, your coach Ron Roquette. Was he your coach?
Recette, yeah.
Was he there the full 3 years? And was he no?
He was an awesome guy though, because like he unfortunately died too young from cancer, but he was just a classic junior coach. We'd be talking to the players, and he wanted guys to go through the wall, not fight all the time, but they just play with some pride and stuff. And he played a little pro hockey. He played in Long Island, actually, I think for the Ducks or something, and then eventually lived there. So Val James was a teammate of mine, and a bunch of guys from that part of the world, Chris Brinster, and American guys.
Yeah,
it was pretty cool.
Well, because you started in junior, and you weren't putting up that many points, but I noticed that you'd accelerated in that department like throughout the 3 years there, and then your last year you put up quite a few numbers.
Yeah, just
that wasn't really your game when you got to the National Hockey League, but is that what made you kind of stand out and get drafted so early?
Well, it was my game until Paul Coffey came here.
Okay. All right, okay, the truth comes up.
Yeah, okay, I guess I'm not the power play guy anymore.
It is cool though. I saw that now the best defensive defenseman in the Quebec Junior League is the Kevin Lowe Award. That must have been a great honor. And we actually talk on Chiclets. There should be because the Norris is now most points. There should be that in the NHL, I think.
Absolutely, yeah. You have the Selke and no, it's an honor. It's an honor. I considered myself a two-way defenseman. I used to rush a puck in junior and stuff, and tried a little bit in pro, but you quickly find out you can't do that stuff. You just got to figure out how to play the game and become a part of a team. And we were fortunate to have a lot of guys that could score, so I quickly realized that helping to shut the door would probably help prolong my career.
Aside from yourself, maybe who do you think they would be able to name the trophy after as a shutdown defenseman if they did decide to eventually do that?
No, I don't know. There's a lot of good defensemen come out of that league. Vlasic played in
he was in Quebec, right?
Yeah.
Well, I meant more so if they did it in the NHL. Who did you look up to as a shutdown defenseman? Who did you try to emulate your game after?
Well, probably, yeah, good question. I'm not sure. Larry Robinson, I guess, because I grew up in the Montreal area, and the Habs were big, and Larry was. But all those guys, Savard and Lapointe, they were just. They weren't prototypical shutdown guys. I think that they were the way our defense were. Like, Randy Gregg could move the puck. Charlie Huddy could move the puck. Don Jackson, we had the same six defensemen for 3 straight Stanley Cup finals. Never changed.
That's unreal.
Yeah.
Same pairings?
Same pairings.
Who was yours?
Lee Fogelin was my, and we were penalty kill guys and last minute of the period guys, and Paul Coffey played with Charlie Huddy, and Don Jackson and Randy Gregg. They were both like 6'4", 6'5", big guys that could move the puck, and anybody could play at any given. Anybody could be on the ice at the last minute of the game. Like, it depended who was playing well that game.
Yeah,
they would default to maybe typically Fogey and I, because we generally did it. But if we weren't having a good game, they would just grab someone else. So I guess that's how you win.
Having the trust in all 6 is the biggest difference. You see it in the best teams now. There's no really weak links, and that was you guys, no doubt.
That's right.
I kept you second year in Edmonton. You guys are a bunch of kids. You already have 6 future Hockey Hall of Famers on the roster. When did you guys start thinking big? Like, we can do some damage here.
Well, we made the playoffs the very first year. Different era, 21 teams and 16 make it. We played the Flyers, who had that record year of 35 undefeated, and we had, it was a 3 out of 5 back then. We had 2 overtime games, 1 double overtime game. And I'll never forget, we lost the last game at home, of course, and Bobby Clark saying, of course, Gretzky's going to be good, but watch out for this Mark Messier. That's
the already tell.
He could already tell, foreshadowing. Then the next year, we made the playoffs and played the Montreal Canadiens. Where I grew up, the famous Habs. I was shitting my pants, to be honest, and seriously thought we were going to get embarrassed, and we swept them. We swept them, believe it or not, and then we played the Islanders the next round, and the Islanders they went 15-2 that year to win, and their only 2 losses were against us.
They didn't lose another playoff game?
They didn't lose it. The only 2 games that they lost were to us. So a little bit of foreshadowing there. Mm-hmm. And then the next year we went right to 2nd overall. So, to answer your question, within a couple of years, you're still having to prove yourself and not thinking you're going to win a bunch of cups, but figuring we're getting better.
Now, did they do a couple seasons 1 through 16, a couple of those early playoff years?
Yeah.
That's been pretty wild, huh?
Yeah, those first 2 years for sure. And we finished 14th that second year and played the Canadiens and finished 3rd. Yeah, no, it was a balanced schedule, right? There was 80 games. There was 21 teams, so you play everybody 4, twice at home, twice in away. Pretty simple, and the top 16 make it.
Now the draft's so different where you got scouting lists 3 years prior, and it was so different when you were coming up. Like going into your draft, were you expecting to be a first rounder? Did you interview with teams then, or was it not even like that?
Did you get a phone call?
Yeah, well,
You're on the dairy farm?
Yeah. There was no interviews. My agent was Alan Eagleson, and he had like 12 guys in the first round, and I was the last, so but what happened was our year, the NHL was getting challenged by players that were 18 years old, like Wayne, like Kenny Linsman, to play as an 18-year-old in the NHL. So the 79 draft year, the reason why it's such a good draft year, it was 2 drafts in a row. Oh. It was the 79s and the 80s were in that draft year. And the 59s and the 60s. And so Mark Messier wouldn't have been drafted that year. Ray Bourque wouldn't have been drafted that year if it wasn't for this new rule that the NHL. So I mean, you can look, if you Google the best draft year ever. There's an argument. There's one other year I forget. 03, but the 79 always comes up. But it was 2 draft years in a row.
You brought up Bobby Clark mentioning Mess, and Mess came on, and he mentioned something interesting in how like him and Wayne had such different leadership qualities that it like really complement one another. Did you find that? Because obviously during that dynasty, you have to have a lot of guys pulling the rope, and those 2 guys were the 1-2 punch.
Yeah, no question. Pretty predictable, I guess you'd say. Wayne was more of the, he was a skill guy and more of speaking in that tone, and Mark was, the hard-nosed guy. So it was good to have both, and they would play off one another. You can't have the same guy talking all the time. So, if Wayne came in the room and wasn't saying anything, that would be Mark's cue to, if he felt something needed to be said about how we're playing and what have you. And they both had so much mutual respect for one another, and that's why we were so good, because you could see the respect they had for each other. Wayne was, Wayne would be scoring 8 points in a game, and he'd be free. You mentioned something that Mess did or Yari did or all the other guys, but I think if you think about the success of the Oilers, we were ready to play anyone because you had the most skilled guy in the world in Wayne, and you had the hardest nosed, best 2-way player in the world. So. Pick a game, pick a style. We're ready, and it's a chicken and the egg thing as far as I'm concerned. Wayne, Wayne's the best player that ever played, but Mark's not far, if you ask me. And I'm not sure Wayne is as successful winning cups if Mark's there. And I don't, I would say, and Mark would agree that he probably doesn't become the player he is if it wasn't the fact he played with Wayne.
We've talked a lot on this show about accountability within great teams. Like McKinnon's known as someone who is saying to Makar or something, usually not Makar, but like, you got to be better. We need you better. Was that happening in this dynasty with the Oilers? Like where it doesn't even need to be Glenn Sather. It's like you guys are calling each other out a little bit?
Yeah, that's a good question.
It's a hot button issue.
Yeah.
Usually.
Oh man, those old school locker rooms, like guys would be having fuck you matches in there, like getting each other's faces. But that's a lot of time what got it done. Like I've talked with Rick Taka, and he's like, that means everybody's caring in there and the emotions are high, and usually that's how you get it done.
Yeah, we had a good chain of command, good leadership command, and we, I don't know, this is kind of lame, but we typically delivered, so we never really ever had to have those.
That's good. That's pretty sick to say.
No, I'm being honest. Like, it's because I don't recall any.
Yeah.
There's a story that some rookie threw his jersey on the floor, and Mess grabbed him by the throat, and Mess would have went over, picked it up, and said, we don't put the jersey on the throat, that kind of stuff. But Mess was for the fact that he's reputed to be a hard-nosed guy.
He's like a softy deep down, right?
Yeah, he's crying all the time, and I think he had so much. He evolved in his leadership, and he had you become a good leader by gaining respect, and you don't get respected by berating the people you're trying to lead. So I don't recall much of that, and not too many yelling matches, and again. If we weren't delivering, Biz, for sure he'd be going out running over someone, and then, a whole bunch of them, including myself, be following suit. So the coach might come in and say, "Get your heads out of your ass," and then that was enough.
That's what I was going to ask you about next. What was Sather like? What was your relationship like with him?
He was brilliant, right? He was really a master motivator. He knew how to. But again, he'd come in and you knew if he was pissed off because his face would turn red, probably the color of mine right now. and you knew it was sour. But he'd say stuff like, you're playing like a chicken shit. He's not inferring you're a chicken shit. He's giving you a chance not to be a chicken shit.
Yeah.
You're playing like a chicken shit. You're not a chicken shit. So that's important, right? You're not demeaning the guy. But you are like
right now, it's bad.
You're exposing him, right? Yeah. Get out there and play, right? That kind of stuff.
What was his history in the game? Like, he became this incredible coach and went to the Rangers and did all these things. Had he played in the NHL or?
Yeah.
Like a Phil Jackson type, sort of.
He played 10 seasons. He played on Bruins, Bruins, Rangers, Blues, Canadians, I said Rangers. I think Penguins. He is a really bright guy, a real street savvy guy, very, very good business guy. And he played for the great organizations. He played for the Canadians, so he took a little bit of that. He played for the Bruins. He took a little bit of that. He played for the Rangers, and then evolved into the WHA and saw what the Winnipeg Jets were doing with the Hedberg Nielsen and because the Jets were playing a different style, right?
Oh, with the Euros. And so
he wanted to play, and he's coming through the big bat Bruins in that era. And not that he was a skilled guy by any stretch. I think he had 86 points in whatever, how many games. But he was the mastermind in terms of what he would like to see. He wanted we had the toughness, but he also wanted the skill level. And in the days, and you can talk to any NHL players that played in our era, they would all go out and watch us practice because our practices were so high tempo and they were all choreographed. We've been doing them for decades.
Yeah.
And so it's going here and it's going there. It's like the Harlem Globetrotters, right? And then coaches started telling the players, "Don't go watch those guys. Don't go watch those guys," because they didn't want them to get intimidated.
Yeah, exactly.
But anyway, Sather he was the mastermind, along with John Muckler and Teddy Green, both who have since departed, but we had a great coaching staff.
Oh, we were hearing some great Ted Green stories from Louis DeBrusk the other day. What an animal he sounded like.
Oh yeah, Greeny, and he was again another tough guy that played, smart guy, very respectful of everybody, never demeaning to anybody. But if he came in and his lip was quivering, he was like, yeah.
And Louis was like, I think he wanted to go out and fight somebody on the other team. Like, he couldn't, he's coaching. But if you gave him the option, he would have thrown some skates on and gone and went and dummied someone.
Yeah, no question. Yeah, he had a terrible accident too, getting hit over the head. Right?
Yeah,
in an exhibition game, and
Wayne Mackey, right?
Yeah.
I got a question about because I had the chance to play for Steve Smith, who was the defensive coach when I was here.
Yeah.
Great guy, and he won 3 cups with you, the last 3. But in '86, it was that incredibly unfortunate bounce where he put it in off Fuhr, and you're going for 3 in a row against the Flames. And I always wondered, a guy feeling that bad, like what were you guys saying to him after? Was it something where you, as a defenseman, you take him in and have a beer? And it must have been hard for him though.
Yeah, I mean, he handled it amazingly well, but yeah, really difficult. The media came in as they did and went right to him, and the veterans like, you guys get the F out of here, give the guy a break, whatever. But the reality is we played shitty.
You guys didn't have a good series.
We got cocky. We lost what was making us work. We didn't. We were very disciplined in the previous cup years. Super disciplined, super committed, and hey, don't get me wrong, Calgary's a good team. They deserved it, but we dropped off, and we didn't play as well. Shouldn't even have been in Game 7. And then that goal happened early in the third period. Lots of time to score, so it's not.
Oh, really? I always see it makes it seem like it was 2 minutes left.
No, it was lots of time to score. So.
Yeah.
Now, you talk about knowing about Wayne, but there wasn't a lot known about European scouting back then. What did you know about Jari Kurri before he came over?
Not much. Couldn't speak English.
Just snipe.
Yeah, I just sniped, yeah. And he looked, I think if I got this right, there was a period of time where there's some talk where he might go back. It wasn't quite, right out of the gate, it wasn't quite working. And then I can't remember the timing when he started to click with Wayne, but yeah, what a player! Just an amazing, a great individual. And we had so many. We worked hard. People often ask, how do you become a team? Like, business guys always say, how do you become a team? Like, we worked at becoming a team. We spent a lot of time together. We'd go for beers together. We'd have dinners together. We'd have Halloween parties together. I mean, I think most pro sports teams do it, but some better than others. And so that was a lot of time for everyone to gel and bond, and particularly for a guy, I think Paul Coffey and Jari lived together. So Jari, Koff says Jari learned his English from Koff, and Jari said he learned his English from watching cartoons. So
same thing, right?
Hey, Koff's a funny bastard.
Yeah.
Was he the funniest of the bunch? He was probably the one guy who could talk back to Wayne a certain way, right? Like I've heard some funny stories that I'm going back and forth about Wayne bitching about a pass and say, hey, I'll put it in your boot next time, and just like funny shit, you love to hear him.
He gravitated that, but again, to be honest, Paul was very quiet in his early years. He was very quiet, yeah. But then he always had the, if you do it well enough, you do the wit, the dry wit.
Oh yeah,
and then Dave Semenko was a leader and all that. He was the dry wit guy, and I think Koff picked up a lot from him. But yeah, Koff's hilarious. He would be. We're going into the biggest game of the year, and we're on the bench together, and his mother and my mother were all the families came into the games, and we're friends and stuff. We were in the playoffs every year, so everybody got to know one another. And the national anthem goes, we sit down, get ready to go, and Koff would go, "Hey, your mom has a new purse." And I'm like, Koff, how do you know where my mom's even sitting, and how do you know she has a new purse? And then the other one was Lee Foglen was a really, really serious guy and a great leader and my defense partner, and hard ass defenseman to play against. And he had bad shoulders, so he hated going over the boards. He'd always try to go out through the gate. And so this, when we'd be up 7-1 in a game, and Fogey's turn to go out late in the game, and Koff would grab the back of his jersey and not let him go out the gate. And Fogel would be like banging his foot,
that's so good.
Who does that, right?
Yeah, silly bastard.
Yeah, Gretz, when we interviewed him, talked about Fogel and what he meant to him as a leader, like teaching him and stuff, right? He seemed like a serious vet that meant a lot to those teams, whereas most hockey fans don't really know that much about him.
Yeah, he was a captain and a great leader. We were fortunate; we had a lot of really good leaders there, and that again that plays into the whole how did the Oilers become really good? Good leadership. You got bad leadership early. You learn a lot of sort of bad traits and stuff. Colin Campbell, league executive, was my first roommate. A guy by the name of Al Hamilton. We had some Ron Chipperfield, B.J. McDonald. as so many good leaders. But the ultimate Lee Fogelin, if you can imagine, you guys probably know the story. I think it was 1983. It was a cup year. Fogelin had been the captain for 3 years. We went to the finals the year before the start of the season. He gave the captaincy over to Wayne. Fogelin was only like 29 years old.
He just knew.
It was time for Wayne to take over. I mean, who does that?
Yeah, seriously.
Like back then when you guys were running this town, could you guys just go out to a bar and hang out, relax, or would people swarm you too much, or you could just be amongst the people?
Well, the reason why we're so great is we never went to the bars. Just on the road. Yeah, no, we would go out for sure. We would go out. We'd be in the community, and people would recognize it. Actually, the football team were bigger stars than us back then. The Eskimos, they used to. The CFL. They won 5 Grey Cups in a row. Commonwealth Stadium here seats 55,000, be packed. We learned a lot from the Eskimos. Actually,
I wonder if that influenced Wayne to buy the Argos.
Yeah, it probably
when he bought the Argos, he's probably saying like, "This is a cash cow. Let's go." Him and who was it? John Candy.
John Candy, and Bruce McNall.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. No, we people are, they're respectful. They'd come up, they want an autograph or to chat with you a bit, but we would obviously spend some time, take a shooter, cheers, and then say, hey, we're trying to have some time together.
Right.
We'd respect that, and people would always be respectful.
No. Did it almost feel surreal at the fact that you guys, like during that run, you guys win those 4 cups in the 5 years? Like you guys are traveling around like the dream team. Like I'm sure like, every hotel you're showing up at, the amount of seekers and the people around, like because it probably, like, I mean, I know when you guys first got there, it must have been popular because everybody was excited about this youth movement. But when you guys started to deliver, it must have been pandemonium everywhere you went.
That was just starting. That stuff was just starting. Like the first seekers were in Chicago.
Really?
The very first autograph seekers would be in Chicago. And they'd be waiting for the bus at 3 a.m, as most cities do now. And we're like, how the hell do you even know where we're coming in? And typically they're there to get Wayne's autograph, not, eventually, others, but it wasn't, I don't know when all that changed. I know some of the All-Star games, I was fortunate to play in a bunch of All-Star games, and when it got to the point where the guys didn't want to go to the All-Star games anymore because the All-Star game used to be a great way to hang out with, the guys in the industry, the other players, and, let your hair down and go out and it's an honor to play in the All-Star game. But it morphed into, in the late 90s, it morphed into, or mid 90s, it just became an autograph session, right? It was like
a headache.
A complete headache. And I think that's why it for the players' sake, it sort of dropped off. But yeah, we didn't have to deal with
That's why they want to go to Cancun now?
Yeah.
You book their trips on Expedia.
Well, that's when one of those All-Star games, I think you were in it, was Gretz had 4 goals. It was like a huge deal. Like it seemed like the game was that much more competitive than now. It's just
So it was actually competitive?
Oh yeah. We had we really did have great games, especially when you added guys like Rick Tocchet in the game and Rod Langway and Cam Neely. And, like it would start off respectful, but then it was like, okay, well,
we want to win.
And I remember a game in St. Louis, I think that would have been in 88, the year Wayne got married. And it was a hell of a game. It was like 7-6, and there was big hits and like goalie out at the end. And it was like, and think about it, in our era, we practiced hard. Like you were never trying to hurt anyone, but you were playing for keeps, defending and so it wasn't a big deal to play that way in the All-Star game, to play without hurting anyone, but to play hard.
Throughout that time of your career, or when you were playing in your peak, like salaries, did players know what other players were making? Everything's changed so much where it's helped players knowing like this guy makes this is my comparable, but it was different then, right?
I was in the players union when that all changed, yeah.
And it was something you wanted to get a little bit more.
Yeah, I was certainly supportive, but I would have said that I was on the fence a little bit because, I was always sort of embarrassed of what he made, relative to other people.
Yeah.
It's not something I wanted to flaunt, but it was clearly the best decision ever made. And Mike Liut was really he was a driver on that, and Mike was a top goalie at the time. I think he was making $400,000. He would have been one of the highest paid players in the game. And there was a lot of pushback obviously the owners must have known that it's not going to be good for them.
Yeah,
ultimately.
this is going to hurt
And
us.
but it actually ended up being exactly what the union needed. And I remember, we're debating it at the union meetings, and Mike Leo, made a passionate plea about it. And he said, "I'd like you guys, you're all too conservative. Like, what's the big deal? Like, who cares what you're making?" He goes, "I'll tell you, I'm making 400,000. Like, okay, is that okay?" Like,
And it was weird then to hear, like, oh, he's talking about his
everyone's
salary.
like 400,000. Holy shit! Like right away, everyone's like,
I'm betting
really?
him.
Yeah,
Fuck.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's when the cell phones were invented. Everyone's trying to call their agent. Alexander Graham Bell.
I asked Best the other day when I asked you with the game 4 of the Stanley Cup when the Power went out in Boston. What was your whole experience?
Already loves this.
It's an interesting story. We only happened once.
Snuck in that night.
Yeah.
Oh, you're there.
He's the one
Yeah.
who shut the fucking lights off.
Somehow wasn't there that
He was responsible for paying the power bill. He was the janitor.
Yeah, that was, we got to the room and nobody knew, like, okay, so what do we do? Like, what's going to happen here? And it was all very strange.
It was bizarre.
For me, it was almost a bit of a reprieve because, playing in the NHL period is tough.
Yeah.
Playing in the Stanley Cup Finals is tough. Like it's emotional and it's hard on your brain and your nerves and stress. So it's like just to get a reprieve and go sit in there and kind of think about it was actually kind of nice, but it was really strange. Yeah.
Yeah. Wild night.
I liked asking Mess about the 90 championship, the one without Wayne. And he was talking about how the year after, I think he lost first round. And then it was such a different focus, that training camp. So it would have been 2 years since Wayne left and you got the job done. But for you personally, do you remember like finding out how he was traded and wondering how different it would be? And then kind of at the end coming together to get one more without him?
Yep. I can answer all those vividly. I was in Newfoundland at Bob Cole's golf tournament and actually playing in a foursome with Marty McSorley, who was getting traded. And it was weird. I think it was a scramble. We're about at our 14th or 15th hole. And one of the guys from the pro shop comes to get Marty, does it saying, "You got to call." Marty was like, "Well, what do you, no, I think you should come take this." We didn't think any of it. Never saw Marty again. But there was within 2 holes, no cell phones back then, so nobody knows what's really going on. But it was weird. You could just
Something's happening.
There's on the course, there was something weird. Like in hindsight,
Yeah.
you realize this.
Like the word had been trickling out through the force.
It trickled out. Yeah, it started to trickle out. And for me, I wasn't that surprised. For the guys in the know, there was the sense that something was not right. And it's business, it's business. It's a business. And so to your point or question, and I know Mark will agree to this and to some extent Yari. Mark had a really tough time with it. For me, Wayne was a great friend, and it's like, what are you going to do? Cut your nose off to spite your face? We got a job to do, we got to play. But I really think we lost that year because guys their hearts weren't into it. And then the last piece was, and we love Wayne, we owe so much to him, and he wasn't doing to flaunt it. But when he was dancing around on the form ice after they beat us in Game 7,
oh yeah,
it was like, and I remember looking at the guys and go, "All right, you guys, you liking this right now? You liking this?"
It's
That was the switch.
They needed it, and so then we came back to next year, and we never, winning that wasn't about, winning.
No.
Without Wayne, it was, and he was the first guy to phone us after we won. It was like, no, we're winning to validate ourselves. It was not to, not to show Wayne up or anything.
I want to get to the Rangers. Obviously, Mark got traded there a year before. It was sort of a sense of getting the band back together. Booga Boom, Graves was there, Asa Tikkanen was the best kind of reach out and say, "Hey, you got to get down there. We got to get number 6." Yeah, how did that
Band back together, baby.
Yeah, it's a good question. Yes and no. Yes and no. We talked about it. I had my contract was up with the Oilers. I had played 13 years. I was an unrestricted free agent, and yet the Oilers still had first right of refusal.
Oh, no,
if you can believe it.
Yeah. With UFA?
Yeah. So both the Rangers and the Canadians wanted to sign me and verbally offer me a contract, but they didn't want to tender it in writing because they said Slats is just going to match it and trade you to the Bruins or the Nordiques and which happened back then. That's not collusion, but it's the way things work. And I knew that those guys were going to pay me double, and everybody had gone, so it was time for me to leave. And so as a consequence, I sat out. I didn't have a contract, so I didn't play till December. And there was rumors at New York. And
Where were you skating at?
I was skating in Banff because we had a home in Banff. My wife and I was skating with the produce manager who went in nets for me. Him and I and
Sather's there too, isn't he?
Yeah, well, he's from Banff, but of course it's the season.
Yeah.
And but when I got to New York, it was a little bit disappointing because Mess was really struggling with the team and the coach, and he didn't think they had he didn't think they could do anything. So he was like, hey, listen, I really want you to come, but you're not coming into the best of circumstances.
Really?
And yeah. And so Glenn finally phoned me in February or December. Rather, say, okay, I've got a trade for you. I got 2 trades. You can go to the Montreal Canadiens, you can go to the Rangers, you pick. And of course, I picked the Rangers because those guys were there. But Montreal won that year, right, in '93. Yeah. So
you're like, oh shit.
Yeah, missed out. And the chemistry wasn't right in New York at the time, and they made a bunch of changes and changed the coach, and the rest was history.
Oh, was it hard saying bye to Edmonton, obviously?
No, because most of those guys, to Craig McTavish for sure, Craig Simpson, was Charlie gone? Charlie Huddy might have, but most of all the guys from the earliest years, everyone was gone, and it was good. It was the best thing I ever did in my career because, it just opens your eyes to another part of the world, and loved New York City. We lived in Manhattan. And by my early years of my career, we'd drive into New York. I go, who in the hell would ever want to live in this city? But we just loved living there. And then, of course, first game against the Islanders and have no idea what the Islander fans are chanting. 1940. I go, they said the trader, what are they chanting? 1940. He goes, what's that mean? That's the last time the Rangers won the cup.
You're like, so we're in one here.
Yeah. And then it was really cool after we won the cup. The first game the Islanders came in 94 after the cup. They chanted 1983 to the Islanders.
Yeah, perfect. We got him now.
Yeah.
But Mess was talking about, we had to ask him about the guarantee in the game 6 against Jersey. And he was talking about how before cell phones, you'd take the bus over to Jersey and everyone's reading the paper. And so you must have been one of those guys that read it and was like, Jesus Christ, what'd you say, Mess?
What did you get us into?
Well, I was in the car with him after the practice, after he talked about it or did what he did. Because we were living in Manhattan. Brian Leach, Mess, myself, Mike Richter, the 4 of us were the only ones. The rest lived up in Rye. And so we just went into him to do the media, us to do some medical stuff with the trainers. And then so no idea, I hopped in the car and he goes, well, I might have done it this time. And like, well, what? But he goes, I'm not even going to tell you. Just read the paper tomorrow. So, I was, it fired me up. It was like, all right.
He said pretty much.
Game on.
Does it feel like Brian Leach sometimes maybe gets overshadowed? I know he played, several years ago, but I feel like his name maybe doesn't get mentioned as much as it probably warrants getting mentioned, talking about the best defenseman of all time.
Yeah, that's a good point. Leachy, incredible two-way defenseman he became, I don't know if Hughes in Vancouver, that's what I see. I see a lot of Brian Leach and Hughes.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's as big as Leachy was, relatively speaking, for the times. I'm not sure how big Hughes is, but, Leachy was, strictly an offensive guy early on, but, he became a shot-blocking, pounding defenseman for all whatever he was, 190 pounds or something, 185 pounds. Your point is a good one. He is one of the greats, if you ask me.
Yeah, I think maybe his personality too. He's on the
quiet guy.
Quiet side, yeah.
Yeah, deflected the attention and stuff. And of course, Mess's presence and Mike Richter was quite talkative. And the Rangers had a lot of stars, Kovalev.
Oh, yeah, Rick.
Adam Graves, so...
Was Keenan ever hard on you? I mean, you've been around so long. Maybe
Never once.
Really? Yeah.
Never once. And so when they hired Keenan in the summer, I didn't have a very good year when I went to the Rangers. Missed half the year. It takes a while. And that was, for me as a GM, it eventually, or a coach, it was a good example. Like, it was a good experience to say, it can take, like Pronger struggled when he first came with us a bit.
Really?
Yeah. Like he didn't score for like, I think 21 games or something. Not that he's a goal scorer, but he ended up with like 16 or something. But it takes a while. Even the best players, it just, because the getting comfortable with the training staff and all the little idiosyncrasies and the coaching and the drills and the players and all that stuff. And things weren't going good in New York. So I thought I had to retire. Like, I thought I was terrible. And then Keenan came along. They made him coach. And I remember talking to Wayne, and I said, oh, shit, I don't know. This is not going to be good. And he goes, I can tell you one thing. You will not have one problem with him. I said, well, what makes you so sure? He says, you have 5 cups and he has none. And that was a fact. He literally never, I mean, he would talk to me as a courteous to him, but yeah, he never said one word to me all year. And there was another guy who was a longtime Ranger and a very good player. And he and his wife and my wife and I were good friends, and we would go for dinner. And he was one of those great guys that he wouldn't say shit if his mouth was full of it. And all of a sudden, the two of him and his wife are just saying all the crazy things Keenan's done. And we get home, my wife says, like, that stuff's going on? I said, I have no idea what he's talking about. But Keenan identified the guys that he didn't like.
Yeah.
And he worked them behind the scenes,
Yeah. That's tough.
That's tough. Yeah. I was going to say 6 cups. Like, what do you do for the parties? Like, do you do the same thing every time? Like, are you eventually like, I ain't fucking throwing a party. Leave me alone.
I don't need it this year.
Yeah.
Well, the Ranger one. So I was at 94. I was born in 59. I was 35 years old, right? So we went out a little bit that night, of course, as you're going to do. The adrenaline's still high. But then Mess phoned me about noon the next day. He said, we're all meeting at 4 o'clock somewhere. And I said, Mess, I can't go, man. I gotta sit this one out, but give me a good night. I'll be ready to go. And phones me the next day, same thing. Like, literally, like, I'm not bailing out. I mean, I could party with the best of them. I was zapped for energy. I was 35. I had a couple kids at that time, and I was like, it was a lot of work to play.
Yeah, it's 7 games in the final round.
Oh man, yeah, we had 7 with the Devils, and I was playing with Zubov, so I was playing. Top. Well, Leach and Bukum were the top pair, but I was playing a lot of minutes, right?
So you were playing with a young Zubov?
Yes.
Oh my God. What was that like?
We played in training camp, the very first exhibition game, and we played pretty much every, other than when he was playing with Leachy in the power play, we pretty much played every minute together until
right away you were like, oh, this guy's got it.
Yeah, no, because I wasn't a high-end offensive guy, but I could move the puck, and knew to get it to him, and could defend when. But he was he could defend too, fantastic stat. There's only been 2 players in the history of the NHL, defensemen, to lead their team in scoring in the same year they win the Stanley Cup. That's Sergei Zubov and Bobby Orr.
Yeah. Wow.
Zubov had 86 points, I think, and he tied with Mess. Mess missed a bunch of games, but
that's a great nugget. Look at you.
Yeah.
All right, you got no job security here. You might have to pick up low for a pod.
I know you won the 5 cups here, but did you ever experience anything like the Canyon of Heroes that you did in Manhattan that day?
No.
What is that? That's what the name of the parade is?
It's on Broadway. It's just, like all the ticker tape, like millions of people all over the place. It's, pretty iconic stuff in American sports.
It was a beautiful warm day, and the ticker tape thing is goes presidents of the United States, astronauts,
yeah, exactly,
New York championship teams. Like, if you look at the old footage, that's what you envision, and that's what it was like. It was very cool, and then finished up at City Hall, and it surreal really. It got the key to the city. Never really did much, but got the key to the city.
They broke the lock on it anyways in New York.
Yeah.
When you went back to Edmonton, did you have any thoughts or ideas of you ended up coaching, GM, president, there were so many things in your post-playing career you did, but what were your thoughts as it finished up as a player what was to come next?
So my contract ran out with the Rangers, and actually the Flames were trying to sign me. And I was considering going there because I'd been away for 4 years, and they made a compelling presentation to my wife was from Banff, and it, was about come and play for a year or two, and then we will get you involved in the organization. And Slats, the door was always open for me. So my contract I signed when I left the Rangers to come to the Oilers was I signed for 1 year to play and 2 years to coach. It was actually, you can't do that anymore, right? SPC, standard players contract, you can't have any addendums or anything. But so, and it just said to coach. It didn't say wasn't
what role.
Yeah, exactly. I just wanted to get my foot in the door and move on to the next. And he always knew that was inevitable, that I would be, some involved in hockey in some capacity. So the Oilers had a young team, Dougie Whit and
Guerin there.
Billy Guerin was Guerin got traded for Jason Arnott. So I think Billy came the next year.
Okay.
And they were evolving, and Slats, wanted a little bit of leadership. I still had a little bit of game in me, and it was great. I played for the Oilers for 13 years. They made the playoffs every year. I left for 4 years. They didn't make the playoffs. I came back. They made the playoffs again.
Thanks, guy. You're welcome, guys.
Yeah. But and of course it went well. So then Slats extended me for another year to play, and then I had an inner ear issue. So a balance thing that ended. I didn't play much that year, and then.
What was that? Vertigo, or was it?
Well, it's vertigo as a symptom, but if they figure it's an inner virus. Not often we hear that people get viruses, can hit your heart and kill you. Viruses and settle in anywhere. In my case, they figured it, my middle ear or my inner ear, and so I was like drunk all the time. But I worked, I rehabbed. This happened in October of that season, and I rehabbed the entire year. And actually played the last game of the year. And I remember the media and everybody coming in saying, "Man, you're back, you're ready." And I said,
"That was it.
I'm done.
So it was almost cool to get that one final game, to get the rehab.
Well, and then they inserted me one game in the playoffs, which was, I think I played about 6 shifts, but it was a game 7, and for some reason they wanted me in there. And then, assistant coach, head coach, and then general manager the full year.
That's a lot of pressure. Between being GM, is that a lot of stuff to juggle?
Oh. In a Canadian market?
Way harder than playing?
Yeah, so I had an option to go to the Rangers, and when Sather went to coach the Rangers, I was the coach of the Oilers, and I had an out of my contract, and so he was always been a mentor, and so I went in and said, what would you do if you were me? And at the time he said, well, there's 3 jobs in hockey. To your point, there's playing, there's coaching, there's managing. Playing is the best, coaching is the second best, managing is the third best. And I thought at the time he was just saying that to try to get me to come coach in New York. But after about 4 or 5 years managing, I really quickly realized, I did. And that's why I stopped managing in 2008. And then, Daryl Keats wanted me around. He could see that I was getting ground down, that I didn't like what I was doing. I was just, I didn't like it. I didn't like dealing with the agents, and no offense to them, so we created the Oilers created the president of hockey operations.
That was the first team that did that, huh?
First team that did that. Steve Tambellini was assistant GM in Vancouver. Knew Steve from Hockey Canada, Olympics. Nice guy, good with the agents, smart hockey guy, hockey family. And initially he was going to come in as co-GM, and then I thought, well, no, that's ridiculous. If he's truly coming in here to be the GM, he's got to be the GM. And then I don't care what I'm going to be. And Daryl Keats said, well, you'll be the president of hockey. And
boom.
And
couple FU matches with the agents. What were they getting greedy at that time? Were their contracts getting too crazy for you?
Yeah, that was the Bob Goodenow days, right? Of the slogan they had was "A rising tide raises all ships," which was great for the union. I was a player at one point, but I was also a guy that I'm a very fair person, and a deal is, we're both happy, right? But it just seemed like the players, and I know that a lot of the guys, if it was up to them, they would have done deals that were a little more favorable. If it's if it's $3 million, it doesn't have to be 3.25. You know what I mean?
It was always the little change on it.
It was always, and that was the rising tide raises all ships, because, yeah, you might agree to take $250,000 less because it's Edmonton, it's fair and all that, but you're hurting the next guys. And I get that, but I just couldn't really accept it.
Yeah, they looked at it like, all right, well, instead of 3.25, well, the next guy's 3.5 instead of 3.25, and 5 years later, it's another couple million a season.
And we didn't have a lot of, like, we were before the cap, you know, we didn't have, when I was managing in the first, till 05, 06, when we had the run, and when everybody's dealing with the same cards, you know, we were playing Dallas every year. Dallas had an $80 million payroll, and we had a $32 million payroll, right? And we could compete with them. Like, we could take them to the woodshed, but, you know, then you'd have Brett Hull or Modano or the guys making $6, $7, $8 million scoring the winning goal, the difference makers, right? And then, you know, when the Dougie Waits of the world got good, and Jeremy Roenick signs for $9 million in Philadelphia, what do you think Dougie Waits getting? Yeah. Whereas, you know, I think I was ready to offer Waiter like $4 million. That was the best we could do to keep Waiter. And I flew down to Phoenix and played golf with he and his father-in-law, thinking that I was going to get a hometown discount. And we're sitting there at his golf club. I think it was Greyhawk, and on the news was Roenick had just signed in Philadelphia. And I looked at Waiter and I said, I guess I wasted my discount.
He's like, sorry, Kevin.
Yeah.
Oh, no. What did he end up getting, Waiter?
I think he got like 8.5 or something. 8.5 or 9. I can't remember, but
was he buzzing around with the blue tux then?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, he was on the wheels.
Yeah.
Oh, I always wondered, and you know, you guys offer sheeted Dustin Penner, and Berkey came out and was so mad, and I just imagine, because Horkoff would tell me how competitive you were. And I couldn't imagine when you saw like his quotes. You must have been fuming, and I don't think you said anything for a long time, but you must have been fuming inside.
Yeah, I know. But I mean, a lot of the stuff that happens in the media, you know, you have to grow thick skin, and you tend to ignore it. You don't even read it, and otherwise, because it's going to piss you off. And I think in Berkey's case, I finally flipped off the handle. I'd had a couple beers in me, and I was going to.
Was it off?
I was going to a friend's birthday party, and you know, one of the media guys phoned me up to say, or whatever it was, and I said, okay, I'll phone you in half an hour and have your pencil ready. And so he's actually, as I'm beaking off, he's like, I can say all this stuff? I think absolutely.
Oh, wow.
Have at her. And I was riding with a lawyer friend of mine. He said, but he's not my lawyer. And he said, if I was your counsel, I would advise you not to say any of that stuff. But,
and you still said run it?
Oh, yeah, because it was enough, right?
Have you guys talked since?
Yeah, we've patched it up since then. And I knew, like,
probably over a couple cocktails, I'm assuming.
Well, it's a different story, and I'll let Berkey tell the story, but it's a good story. It's a real good human interest reason. I won't divulge it, but yeah, we had gone fishing together and drinking buddies, and I understand, and I think Berkey was just pissed off that I didn't talk to him ahead of time. That was the reason. But we had offer sheeted Vanek prior to that, and I had phoned Darcy Regier, who's a great person and stuff. And it was like, you know, I got a half hour, an hour of, you know, why it's such a dumb move. And, you know, like, I can't believe you're doing this. And I was like, what's Berkey going to say when I phone him up? But it's not even like, I'm not even going to phone Berkey. Yeah.
And then it blew up even worse. Oh, God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you think you're doing the right thing, Rear?
Yeah, that shit happens. Well, it's been just, you had such an incredible career, both sides of the aisle, playing, coaching, GM, and we appreciate it. 6 Stanley Cups. It's an amazing feat. So we appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. Yeah, we'll do it again.
Before we continue, I want to talk to you about Game Time. The Winter Classic is coming up end of December at Wrigley Field on New Year's Eve, and we cannot wait to get out there. And right now, hockey fans can save on tickets with a Game Time exclusive 25% off when using Zone Deals with Game Time. This deal is only available until December 2nd, so fire up the Game Time app and get your Winter Classic tickets now. Whether you're from Chicago or whether you're from Moose Jaw, the Winter Classic is such an amazing experience. To think of making a trip with some buddies or your wife to go and watch a game at legendary Wrigley Field, I can think of no better way to ring in the new year. And with Game Time Zone Deals, you choose your zone and Game Time chooses your specific seats, and you get peace of mind with Game Time's lowest price guarantee. If it's your first time buying with Game Time, you can enter the code Chiclets for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. There's nothing like seeing a Winter Classic live. I've been to a few, got to play in one of the best memories of my career, and you can get 25% off with Zone Deals on Game Time, the official ticketing partner of Barstool Sports. What time is it? Game time. Thank you very much to Kevin Lowe. What a career. Incredible to hear the stories and I guess like how he was able to be that successful and play with that many great players. It was really cool having him on. Biz, we did have a couple trades this past week. The Toronto Maple Leafs, your Leafs, they traded defenseman Timothy Liljegren to the San Jose Sharks for Matt Benning, a conditional 2025 third-round pick, and a 2026 sixth-round pick. He just wasn't playing. He wasn't in the lineup.
Yeah, he just wasn't really getting his opportunity. I wish him well. I kind of viewed him and Sandin in that same boat, like smaller puck-moving defensemen. And I think it was probably the right time. And I'm sure he was sick and tired about not knowing exactly what his future was in Toronto, and probably better off that they send him on his way. But, seemed like a good guy. Seemed like he was well-liked in the locker room. I don't really have much else to say. I don't think this is like a majorly impactful trade.
No, neither do I. I mean, what's weird is that he was picked 17th overall in 2017. And a pick after him in the second round by Colorado was Connor Timmins. And he I guess didn't take his job, but that's a guy that they'd much rather have in the lineup than Liljegren, and he moves on. The other trade was the Utah Hockey Club acquired Oli Mata from the Detroit Red Wings for a 2025 third round pick. He's 30 years old. He had a $3 million cap hit, and he's an unrestricted free agent next summer. So I think Detroit we're not going to sign you. We don't need you.
I think Detroit's defensive game overall is absolutely brutal.
Horrible.
Like they're horrendous on the back end. So I don't know if moving on from him is going to help anything, but maybe they have somebody.
I ran into Chris Draper at the BU game, whose son is on the Michigan Wolverines, as well as Marty Lapointe's son. So pretty cool that he's working and he's obviously getting to see his son play and scout, but he was mentioning it like they got Edmondson and Sider playing together, and they're going against the first line every night. And it's one of those this is what they need to go through, and they're going to be better for it in the long run. And you see some nights them really shut down some legit stars in the league, and then other nights there's going to be growing pains. But I think his most exciting thing, or the Detroit Red Wings as a whole, is that they got this. What's the kid's name, G, from Sweden? Pekka. Remember last year we watched that defenseman for Team Sweden? I can't even get the guy's name right. Look it up quick, G. But he's come Axel Sandin something. Maybe I'm thinking of the Sandin the Leafs traded, but he is lighting up the SHL. He won it last year. He's back over this year. Could be in the NHL at the end of this season. I don't remember. I'm not exactly sure. I couldn't even give you his name. But we'll get it to you by the end of the show. I promise. I promise to do that. Guys, it's Whit, and before we go any further, I want to talk about Yeti. Yes, Yeti. Everyone knows somebody with a Yeti, whether it's the cup, the little one, the big one, the coolers, the carry coolers. They have so much to offer. They keep your drinks cold and they keep your drinks warm. Somehow they do both. And to have them on as a sponsor, it's an honor, because I've been crushing and using Yetis since the day the company was invented. I'm going to go out on a limb. I might have been one of the first Yeti customers. And now Yeti has NHL custom drinkware. They sent me over Oilers cups, just 3 beautiful ones. 1 small fat one, 1 medium one, and 1 big daddy. It was like the old Nintendo ice hockey game. 1 of each. That's what Yeti does. Their unique laser marking customization technique creates a permanent finish on your drinkware. All 32 teams available, and a great gift for the hockey fans in your life. If you're looking for a solid Christmas gift, what is better than a Yeti with your friend or loved one's favorite NHL team stapled all over? It's the best in the business. Grinelli got the Bruins, Biz got the Leafs, and I got the Oilers. Shop at yeti.com/NHL. That's yeti.com/NHL.
But in more important news or topic, we got to talk about you, my friend, and
What's
this
up?
Whit versus Riggs showdown. What's happening? I saw you guys talked about it on the Unnamed show. Did Portnoy kick up dust on that? Like, how did it all come up?
I think Minahan mentioned, are you guys like going to play? And going back, I cannot believe it was 5 years ago. I was calling into Barstool Radio. I had Ryder in the car who was 1.5, screaming at the top of my lungs. I almost said like a word that can get you in trouble now that begins with an R, and I switched it to moron halfway through, just screaming at Riggs. The whole storyline was that I qualified with a partner, the one-arm bandit, for the USGA 4-ball. Of course, that was going to be played in May of 2020. COVID comes, they cancel the tournament, and they don't allow the teams that qualified in to just play in 2021. So I got hosed. I got a paddle from the Philadelphia Cricket Club. I actually got it over here. I'm going to come over here for a second and grab it. This is what I got. This is exactly the gift I got for qualifying for a USGA event, which will probably never happen in my life now. Boom. 2020 USA. Pretty cool. Nice of them to send.
Confused paddle to like spank somebody if you need to.
Yeah, exactly. And I have 3 boys. So don't call me. Don't
Child
call me
services are going to end
Don't
up there.
call me Adrian Peterson with the switch. But yeah, I got this paddle. And in the process of that, this whole match came about where Riggs had said on Twitter, somebody said you should play Whit. And I think he wrote like any time or something like that. And I was like, all right, let's do it. And we were going to do it for 10 grand. And then he asked for shots. I'm like, whoa. Like, you said you'll play me whenever. And now you kind of want shots, like already admitting I'm better than you. And so we were arguing over that, and things got ugly. God, it feels like a different lifetime.
It feels like there was like a little bit of hatred there.
I hated his guts. I hated him. I'm like,
and
this
you've
motherfucker.
since squashed the beef? Like, have you guys had a conversation face to face?
Yeah, I've seen him like multiple times since this happened. And I mentioned on the Unnamed show, I respect what he's done a lot, right? Like, I think that whole crew, I mean, they're monsters on YouTube. Their podcast is an enormous hit, and they've grown a huge golf brand within Barstool. I believe they're, correct me if I'm wrong, the number 1 selling like merch at Barstool is foreplay stuff. They're at all the
they sling merch.
Now Nick, get me the name of the Detroit Red Wings prospect, please. Thank you.
Got you.
So I at the time I was seeing a guy for lessons. Actually, I still see him, Sean Hester, the man. I don't see him nearly as much. But I mentioned, I'm going to be doing this match, 10 grand. And he's like, dude, I don't know, like the USGA, who is notorious for just horrific rulings in golf and all the nonsense in golf. And they're crazy about amateurs not getting paid for anything to remain amateurs in the game of golf. Like, being an amateur in golf is like, it's like, it's got this.
They're like the new NCAA.
It's got this like ring to it. Like, an amateur cannot be paid. Like, it's just Bobby Jones won the fucking Masters as an amateur. I don't know. It's just all this nonsense about amateurs. Like, you might want to like make sure if you do this match, like, these people are so tapped. Who knows if it's all over YouTube? Like, what if they didn't let you play because you're technically not an amateur? So then I ended up looking like such a fool, which I knew at the time was going to happen because I was the one that had brought this to this guy, and then I'm the one that has to be like, dude, I can't do this match till after this. And then it got even uglier, and it looks like I'm dodging, whereas I was just making sure I didn't get kicked out of some tournament, which would then screw over the one-arm bandit. And in the process of all of this, just despised Riggs. I was like, I fucking hate this guy. Well, time has passed and time heals all wounds. And you've mentioned me before, we have to play the foreplay guys in a sandbagger. Now, they do it with 3 guys. I think it's Riggs, Trent, and Frankie. Frankie's now nasty at golf. Now, mind you, Riggs and I'm a 3 handicap now. I think he's a 4. Grinelli, thank you. Axel Sandin Pellica. Okay? Axel Sandin Pellica, Red Wings fans. He's coming, and he's going to dominate. Back to Riggs. I ended up just thinking like, all right, I got to give him shots. Like, so I'm already better than whatever. I'm kind of all over the map right now. But you then brought up, they have 3 guys. We have to play them. Frankie and I had a heart-to-heart. Frankie brought me to play Deepdale, which is a sick course in Long Island. It was amazing. Right around the time, it was the day before we did the FDNY NYPD game. And he's like, dude, you guys do all these golf videos. Like, we're the golf brand at Barstool. Like, how have we not done something together? I'm like, you're 100% right. Biz has been saying that to me for a while. And then with that, I'm thinking Riggs and I can finally play, because Riggs has started this series called Hater. I believe it's Hater, where he plays against people. I think Riggs is maybe the most hated guy in the golf YouTube universe. Like, it just seems like he gets
likes playing the villain.
I don't know if he likes playing the villain. I think that these people chirp his swing and say he sucks and say he's not a 4 handicap and all this stuff. So he started a series, which is great.
Saying that he's lying about it in a good way or a bad way. Like, he thinks it's cool to be a good handicap. Like
they say the internet says he's a reverse sandbagger. Whereas you say, like, the guy at the water cooler, like, yeah, I'm a 2 handicap. Then you play with him. It's like, buddy, you're not a 2 handicap. You just want to say you're a 2 handicap.
Right.
Like, which those people I love, because those people are free money. And if you're playing a cash game and you get some reverse bagger on your team, you're like, buddy, this guy's giving shots to somebody who's way better than him. You know what I'm saying? Like, reverse baggers are fine. It's the true sandbaggers that are scumbags. So Riggs now plays against these people who comment on his videos, where they'll go find people who have left like 100, 200 comments carving the guy personally, golf-wise, just like truly internet trolls that like hate someone so much that they don't know where he's playing them in golf matches.
Has it gotten heated when he's been with them in person ever?
No, the matches at the beginning, usually he's like, yeah, I don't like you, but they're always kind of cordial. And like most internet trolls, you meet them and they're going to be most of the time way different and more cordial than they are on the internet when they're doing it. You know, so that's just the life we live, the world we live in, where people will not say to your face what they write to you on a DM.
So I talked to you, and I don't know how this is going to all shake out. I was hoping at one point we could do, and I know Dave has mentioned it as well. I texted him. He's like, "Oh, that idea sounds vaguely familiar," as in though it was his idea. But I've been begging you for a long time where we could do almost like a tournament style, where obviously foreplay would be involved. Maybe they would break off into 2 different teams of 2, considering they have 4 guys.
No, they have 3, I think. They have 3.
Who's the other guy that's online sometimes that they added on?
That guy Rappaport left.
Oh, he's not here anymore. So it's only 3.
He's gonzo. So they got 3. And then that's why they play like the Bob Does Sports. And so it could be me, you, and Jans playing the foreplay team, and they do scramble, 3-on-3 scrambles.
Okay, but would you rather just go head to head versus Riggs first?
No, I think we should do both.
Okay. All right. So there's going to be a culmination of different events. I mean, there's other people we're out here in Arizona. We got the Subpar podcast. We got the Bob Does. Like, I figured it like is it Spregnac? How do you spell?
I don't know how to say her last name.
But like, how do we not get all these golf YouTube people together in one universe and create some sort of tournament or competition? Like, even
I remember talking to you way more about a sandbagger tournament. Like, we've definitely had this conversation, but I remember talking a lot about getting 2-man teams of all these NHL legends and current players to do a sandbagger tournament.
Well, it sounds like we could maybe do a little bit of both if we wanted to, like mix it all, like a mixed bag of nuts, where you could have all these different YouTube golfers mixed in with these other pro athletes. Like, it's not like necessarily delegated to just hockey teams, where we could have 5 different sets of maybe we bring back all the sandbagger groups that have beat us. Like, I'm sure Prusty and Shrempy would love to come back. Imagine getting Commie and Whitney back in the mix. Whitney, that is. Like we have a big opportunity to hit the golf world on YouTube.
Jose Theodore and Jovo dummied us.
Buddy, the short game on those fuckers. So I was just putting it into the universe. I think that you and Dave need to go back and have a long discussion about how we could maybe do something from a Barstool perspective. And then maybe in the meantime, then we do what you said, where it's just maybe just us versus foreplay, where it's kind of this two-headed monster where we do the three-man scramble, me, you, and Yans versus foreplay. But then again, at one point, you versus Riggs head on head, nobody's getting any shots then? Is that how it's going to play out?
I mean, if I'm one shot better, at the time I was a 0, and like he's like, oh, you're better than me. That was my whole point. Like, all right, I'm better than you. But I should bring up, Francis does do stuff with them now, my guy Francis. So I think in all of their videos, Francis, he's not on the pod, but he does all of their golfing YouTube videos. So Francis is awesome to have around.
And how could we not have Kirk Minahan in the mix? That guy's a menace, and he's great on the golf course as well. So I feel like there's something bigger than just doing something with foreplay here.
Imagine me, you, and Yans and Minahan versus Francis, Trent, Riggs, and Frankie. Four-man scramble. That would be unbelievable. I being on Minahan's team, I'd just be like, yes, thank God.
Because he could just talk all the shit. So
the thing about Riggs is his swing is ugly. And I think like talking to Frankie and watching some of these videos, like his driver, just like there's days he cannot get off the tee. But around the greens, he's got a very good short game, and that is why I think he ends up winning a lot of matches. Like, he'll hit it horrible and shoot 82 because of his short game. That's not bad.
I would like a little redemption on the no laying up guys when they were talking shit about the DJ Khalid thing. I'd love to mix it up with those guys.
But I believe you ended up admitting you were incorrect on that one.
Yeah, but for the sake of the content, no, I didn't. And
exactly.
what about subpar? Like getting those two guys in the mix.
So that's almost where you have to separate them too, because like all of these YouTube golfers, then like that's like they would kill everyone.
Who are the other ones that I'm not mentioning? Is there any other golfers? What about the good guys?
Foreplay does a lot of stuff with them. I think that they were just in a match like that. I saw clips on social media today or yesterday.
Okay.
So good's huge. There's a DOD guy. I guess he's like driver off the deck, where he just rips driver off the deck constantly. Like he's been thrown into the comments as possibly somebody. Yeah, foreplay. I don't think No Laying Up's ever done anything with other groups. I think they're just kind of on their own. They don't really collab the way it seems.
Yeah,
all
they
these
seem
other
like
YouTube,
the type of guys that wouldn't collab.
They're not down to collab, I guess. So, who else we got?
Are they the most legit, other than subpar?
There's a guy that left good named Grant Horvat, who he does like, I seen him playing with Bryson DeChambeau and Mickelson and like Morikawa. Like, I think he's really good too. He has one-on-one matches against like the biggest names in golf. So it is just such an enormous presence on YouTube golf now. And I'll also go on a little rant for golfers out there. I love that golf has grown, right? I guess I'm going to end up going into that. I don't love it. But it is cool to see this many people fall in love. And it's all based on COVID, when you couldn't do anything but go outside and golf, unless you lived in Massachusetts where you weren't allowed to golf. Like, what the fuck were they thinking then? Talk about it. We were the last state to be allowed golfing. So golf has blown up, but I hate it. And I feel like somebody who loved a band when they were just playing like 200-foot little, 200-seat little hole-in-the-wall bars, and then they go mainstream and big. You're like, no, I liked them before. I already knew about them. They're too big now. All you people out there like me that were obsessed and had the bug and just couldn't get enough golf like a true junkie, to see what has happened since COVID, it crushes me. You got to book a golf trip 2 years in advance. Every course is full all the time. There's mutants out there smacking each other in the head with a driver, getting in fights on the course. It's just golf needs to shrink again. Golf needs to shrink. It's too big. All these courses want this ridiculous amount of money to join, and at some point there's a golf bubble and it has to burst. I'd be shocked if it doesn't.
I think some of these people are going to be getting bent over and rinsed on their golf memberships that they've bought.
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, like you look down in Florida and all over, and like clubs, they're $500,000 to join. It's like
That's
how much
fucking stupid.
I know.
That's so stupid.
It's crazy.
To be in a
And
golf club with people you don't even like.
That's a good way to look at it. I joined this club with all these people I don't even like, but the greens are good. So, Biz, that kind of wraps it up. So we'll see what happens. But I'm with you, buddy. You've been saying we got to do stuff with foreplay. Me playing rigs, and it could be part of the Hater series and on our YouTube that now has 356,000. What was it last week?
Deal.
What was it last week? Was it 345?
355. We've gained 1,000 thanks to G and Fish.
We got 1,000. Last thing we'll leave you with is all of the breast cancer awareness merch that we have put for sale. It's actually extended all of November. It's Hockey Fights Cancer Month. It's a very special month. Everyone knows somebody who's been affected, and we're going to keep all that stuff on sale, and all the proceeds go to Breasties, the foundation Grinelli's worked with. Biz has the hoodie on right now. There's awesome stuff on the Barstool Sports Store. So check it out. Donate to a great cause while getting a cool hoodie or shirt. And the Boston vlog from when we were just here, we had the 5-iron event, and we had a sandbagger with Tuukka and Andrew Raycroft. That vlog will drop on Thursday. So exciting time. We also had a BU game, so we get to see some of the beautiful Agganis Arena on this Boston vlog. So check that out on Thursday, and we will be back to you next Tuesday, buddy. I can't wait. We're going to be with Yans. We're going to be doing a bagger in Florida, and we get to see each other. So looking forward to it.
Can't wait. Go Leafs, go, baby.
Peace.